Good afternoon and welcome to our 7 Network coverage of motor racing from Amaroo Park in Sydney. Third round of the $70,000 Better Brakes CRC AMSCAR Series. And if you look at the grid lineup for this race, you could well be forgiven for thinking that it's an RX-7 benefit. But whether or not it turns out to be that way come race time remains to be seen. With a breakdown on just how the grid shapes up, here's Evan Green.
Indeed, it was Mazda Day in practice. There were no fewer than 6 of the rotary-engined RX-7s among the leading 12 cars on the grid. In the front row, you'll see Alan Moffat, who has pole with quickest time, which was 8/10 under the lap record, and Barry Jones alongside him. Where have all the V8s gone? Well, there are only 4 of them among the group. The leading V8 is the Commodore of Alan Grice, who'll start on the second row. Colin Bond is in a Camaro, 2 cars behind him. The leading Falcon is Gary Wilmington. Well, you might notice there are some famous names missing. And to learn something about one of the most famous names, it's over now to Mike Raymond.
Thank you, Evan. Well, former Australian touring car champion Peter Brock was expected to go head-to-head with Alan Moffat in the third round of the AMSCAR Series today. Unfortunately, Brock is a no-show for the third round of the series. His place will be taken, though, by Marlborough Holden dealer team manager John Harvey, who settles back into the cockpit of the Commodore after winning the CRC race here last year. Promised to be a great afternoon of excitement here at Amaroo Park. Cars already coming out on the racetrack and the warm-ups prior to the first race.
What a race it promises to be, Mark Raymond. There you see Alan Grice in the Recar Commodore. Now, he's got this car wound up and going just so well, and he gives the thumbs up to our cameraman because he knows that he holds pride of place for this V8 heat of the AMSCAR Series, the opening race on the program. There's Bondi in the 9 Camaro. They share the front row of the grid. Remember, this is the heat for the V8s. We're going to be seeing the smaller capacity cars, and of course that includes all the RX-7s, including Alan Moffat, in the second heat later in the afternoon. And then as the big wind-up towards the latter part of the program, we're going to combine a lot of them, and we're going to have one rip-roaring third heat of the AMSCAR Series.
The flag about to drop on the front row. Alan Grice and Colin Bond. Down goes the wagon side by side. They go with Gary Wilmington, the yellow Falcon, closing with them, but they're still level pegging as they go up the hill for the first of 10 laps. Wilmington in third place. Bond, though, has gone a little deeper, and he may come out first, just in front of Grice. So it's the big Chevy that takes the lead for the first time. Alan Grice behind them, Gary Wilmington. And it looks as though John Harvey has clawed his way from 6th position on the grid to be 4th as they come down through Mazda Corner for the first time.
Well, Harvey would have to find something after his efforts in practice yesterday, because he was not right up amongst the top contenders, was he?
He's passed 2 cars already, that's right.
Into Dunlop, or out of Dunlop, and heading down the backside of the course. Colin Bond and the 9 Camaro leads from Alan Grice. Wilmington up smartly. John Harvey already into 4th, started well back on the grid.
Terry Finnegan in 5th in Commodore, which used to be Charlie O'Brien's.
Right behind him is John Goss in the big Jaguar XJS.
I was talking to Gossy. He said he's got it going consistently. Fast is the next question.
Yes, just a trial run today with the big Jag running in the middle of the field in this exploratory meeting as far as John Goss, the former Bathurst winner, is concerned. But it's Colin Bond still leading. Alan Grice quite content to stay behind. Grice, he knows his way around the track better than anyone else. He lives here, so he should know it pretty well.
Working away once again down through Valvoline, and Colin Bond and the 9 Camaro doing a very, very good job, looking ultra competitive here at Amaroo Park this afternoon. And through the gears, the left-hander again at Honda Corner brings them back on the short straight, a little kink in it there, and there's a good shot of Bond. He's got Grice fairly close to him, probably about 10 metres back to Wilmington. Harvey then making up some ground as they come down to Winfield Corner again. A little sideways that time was Bond. Grice closer this time, Wilmington. There's Harvey going through. And you can see Alan Grice starting to make inroads now, looking for the lead. Colin Bond in this 10-lap heat for the V8 cars.
I think Alan Grice is saying, OK, Colin, that's all you can see. There's been a bump there, 2 cars together, 36 with his back out is Bill O'Brien in the Falcon and car number 11.
Brown in the other.
That's right, Clyde Benson Brown, whose car, driven by Gary Rogers, was totally destroyed at Bathurst, doing his best to try and repeat the thing, although the cars don't appear to be too badly damaged, but they're certainly out of this first heat. Hopefully they get ready for the main race later in the day. Marshall just pushing the cars clear, just from the point of view of safety, to get them further off the track. 2 cars out, and in the meantime, back among the leaders as they come through Honda, it's still Colin Bond in Kevin Bartlett's big Chevy Camaro. Alan Grice behind and stalking him and just waiting for his chance to get by.
He's done an exceptional job in his appearances in the 9 Camaro, has Colin Bond at Amaroo Park this season. Given the ride by Kevin Bartlett at the start of the season of the AMSCAR CRC series here, because Bartlett was looking at Colin Bond is a co-driver in this year's James Hardy Classic at Mount Panorama, and he has already signed the dotted line. So we're going to see Kevin Bartlett and Colin Bond running in the Camaro, probably up front too, I would imagine, at the James Hardy.
And of course, Gricey's come up trumps since picking up with the Recar Commodore team, hasn't he?
Yes, he's gained a new lease on life. Obviously a new purpose, wanting to beat a black and gold car here at Amaroo Park this afternoon. There's a good shot as we pan through down towards the left-hander at Honda corner. And I think if Colin Bond can keep the pressure up, he's going to log the first race win for this car at this circuit. There's Grice, there's the carnage that coming together at Winfield the last lap around, Benson Brown, of course. These two cars once again out of Winfield corner. Wilmington still sitting there in third place. John Harvey in the Marlboro Holden Dealer Team Commodore still in fourth place. There's the gap between 1 and 2. And then you see the gap further back to Wilmington, who's dropping a little off the pace. And I think Bond doing a good job of stretching the Camaro's long legs around this very tight, very twisting racetrack, and a very big audience that they're performing in front of this afternoon.
There's no mean feat in a car like that around here either, because there really isn't a straightaway, is there?
No, it's all turns.
The drivers say it's the hardest circuit in Australia. There's nowhere to rest at all. Even Bathurst, with its rather awesome drops and bends, does have a couple of long straights where the drivers can relax and just have a chance to be interested.
If Bondi is still grinning regardless, it's because he's a new daddy. Just as recently as 3 weeks ago, a baby daughter to Colin and Robin. And in fact, baby daughter's having a first race meeting outing today, starting young.
Dad's not doing a bad job out in front. Alan Grice getting a little closer each time, particularly through this, these couple of corners down the bottom end of the circuit. The order still Bond over Alan Grice and Gary Wilmington in the Ford back in third. So a Camaro leads a Commodore, and a Ford over the next Commodore being the John Harvey Marlboro Commodore.
Gary Wilmington doing a good job back there for Ford. He's in third place. The other Ford, well known to fans of motor racing, is being driven by Murray Carter. He started on the last row of the grid. Wasn't happy in practice yesterday. Was fourth slowest, in fact, when he started way back in 22nd place in the main race, a 25 lapper later in the day, but Murray Carter working his way up through the field.
Wilmington, in fact, finished well up last meeting here without drawing a lot of attention to himself, and as you say, he is doing a good job.
Been very consistent in the Better Brakes CRC series so far as Gary Wilmington. Unsponsored, but he carries on. He's got two pretty hot pretenders behind him, one of those, of course, being John Harvey. There's the gap again between first back to second.
There's about 100 metres between them and Wilmington, who's in third place, really being hustled now by John Harvey, and right behind him, Terry Finnegan. Quite a battle. You can see them in the distance there. They're full grip, the leading 5 cars. The first 2 sweep by. Grice still in the best position, I would say. He's in this race. He's well placed. He hasn't done a thing wrong. And he's just waiting his time for Colin either to show signs of the tyres wearing a bit, as we watch Wilmington come through leading this group, or just to make a move.
He's really throwing the car around as Wilmington. He's dwarfed, actually, by the size of the car. Looking at the shot of him last time he went up the straightaway, he was dwarfed by the cockpit size of the car. There's Colin Bond, left-hander through Honda. Exits that turn. Alan Grice, very, very close indeed. Grice probably starting to set him up for a run at the inside the next lap or so down through this part of the track.
Terry Finnegan,
yep,
did it all wrong then and lost some ground, went a bit wide. Now he's close to John Goss in the Jaguar, who's dropped back in the leading group for second place. But look at Grice now. I'd say this is the lap where he's going to try. He's just shuffling around a little bit right behind Colin Bond. He may make a move on top of the hill. We'll see how he goes. He might just pull out. No, he says, I can't do it that time, but I'll get as close as I can and come out as hard as I can. So let's see what Gricey does here.
just 2.5 laps to do it.
Colin will try and keep the inside line if he can. Grice will just have to hold on there. There's nothing much he can do. Through Dunlop they sweep down now towards Mazda corner, which is taken flat out.
Grice put an enormous amount of preparation into this meeting, and that car's going so well for him. He came out here on Friday and reeled off in one session 25 laps, consistent low 54s, one after the other.
But this Chevy's going well too, Gary.
Exceptionally fast.
Look at the grunt, the way it really gets out of the corners. It's always had a lot of torque, but it's really putting the power down well today. Just watch it through Winfield here. The more than 90-degree right angle bend. Bondi pulls away a bit then, and Gricey comes in close through Wunderlich, sweeps in. He hasn't made any ground at all. In fact, Colin Bond just pulled away a little bit from Alan Grice in that last manoeuvre.
2 laps to go.
Keep in mind, yesterday in official practice, Bond qualified this car at 54.1 seconds and Grice qualified at 53.6. I think they're pretty quick. Keep in mind, Alan Moffat was 53.2 in the Mazda RX-7. If these two V8s can get off the line in the final over 25 laps later this afternoon, Alan Moffat is going to have one fight on his hands.
The lap record here is a long-standing one. It stands to the credit of Bobby Morris, who went round exactly in 54 seconds during a race. Of course, times in practice don't count, so Alan Moffat's time yesterday won't count. But another 3 cars are also all under the lap record, and it's interesting that Alan Grice, who will start in the second row of the grid in the main event, reckoned he would have at least equalled Alan Moffat's time, except during his demon lap he missed a gear change and lost a few tenths of a second. He reckons he was in for a flyer that time, so Grice is feeling fairly confident. 1 lap to go. The last lap board is out.
A rewarding win coming for the father of the month, Colin Bond, in the number 9 Chevrolet Camaro, leading Alan Grice.
Look how close Grice is, though he may be making a move. He is right on the tail of the Camaro.
Perhaps looking for an inside pass at Winfield Corner for the final time. There's the gap back to 3rd and 4th. Wilmington still 3rd in the Ford, and of course John Harvey, bumper rubbing to him, in 4th place in the Commodore.
And the last car we saw there was John Goss, who's coming up in 6th place in the Jaguar, which is a good run for John, the car being very reliable now and going on there pretty quickly. But it looks as though Colin Bond is going to win, even though Grice is getting close. He just won't be close enough, I don't think. And it looks so Colin Bond will hold off. He has the power through this corner, through Wunderlich for the last time, and the checkered flag is out, and Colin Bond will get it.
Good scene setter for this afternoon as Bond leads Grice, Wilmington and Harvey across the line to take the opening 10-lap race in the Better Break CRC Touring Car Series here this afternoon. And I think it'd be a very delighted Colin Bond. I can't recall the Chevrolet Camaro, the number 9 Camaro, actually winning a race here previously. It'd been very close to the leaders and made it hard for a lot of them. But Bondi beats Grice and Wilmington home in the first this afternoon.
And the order after then was, after Gary Wilmington, was Johnny Harvey in car number 5, then car 15, Terry Finnegan, who made up a lot of ground after losing it on the dirt. Then John Goss in the Jaguar was next in 6th place. Car 47, Brian Callahan in the Falcon. Car number 14, which was Fred Geisler in the Commodore. Car 16, the Alan Brown Commodore, and in last place across the line of those still running, car number 18, Murray Carter in the Falcon. That's the way they finished in the first heat of the Better Breaks Touring Car Series, being brought to you live from Amaroo Park Raceway. There were those who thought Alan Moffat had gone slightly bonkers when he stepped out of a big V8 into a small car. But Alan Moffat, on the front row of the grid, winner of the last round of the National Touring Car Championship, you must be smiling now. The others must be rather worried.
Well, I'm not crying. I'm not exactly smiling. We've worked very hard. I have a fabulous crew who have spent many, many thousands of hours giving me a car that we're capable. And we got great partners in Japan that supply us with engines and mechanical parts that don't fail, and that's the whole key to it.
Did you think you were going to be a winner in 1982?
We thought we were almost a winner in 1981, but for an incident at Bathurst. Our plan was to do well in the second half of the season. I must say it came on faster than we expected. But I think it's very much a case of what you put into something is what you get out of it. And we put a hell of a lot of effort into preparing the car. It does exactly what I want it to do. We've got great tires, and I'm able to drive the car harder than I've probably ever driven anything in my career.
In the Sun Herald, you said you might have done better in the season, but for a bit more confidence from the team. What did you mean by that?
I should have said confidence in myself. We didn't really feel that with the size of the rotary engine, we could match the pace of a V8 in a 50-mile race, in a championship race, or certainly the idea of doing anything in a 10-lap race, as we are here at Amaroo, was out of the question, because our engine is so small, and its real forte is the longer it goes, the better it likes it. But through mechanical devices and a little bit of hard work and suspension tuning, we were able really to bring up the speed much faster than we thought. And we've got a terrific race package. That's what racing's all about. It's not just a good engine or a good gearbox or a good set of tires. It's a total package that the driver has absolute confidence in and is able to drive to the maximum limit.
At Surfers Paradise, you and Dick Johnson tangled, and Dick was very bitter afterwards. What happened?
So I can understand that he would be, and I'm disappointed that I had to be the one that was in the way when he had a little bit of a lose. He came across my left bows. I couldn't stop in time. We're traveling 70, 80 miles an hour through the corners, and virtually at less than a cigarette paper's width apart, and the other driver had a little loose. I couldn't correct as fast as he did. He came across my front guard, and off he went, because the track was very narrow at that point of time.
Alan Moffat, obviously you think you're going to win today. Who do you regard as being your most serious rival?
Well, everybody that's on the first couple of rows, Alan Grice has done extremely well here. He has got the torque of the V8 to go up the hill. I think we have to get an extremely good start, or else there will be problems, and it's virtually impossible to pass around Amaru safely. And with our small engine capacity or lack of torque, I would be very nervous if Grice got in front.
So the start will be critical.
The start is always critical with a rotary. You must get away, and we must get over the hill the first car over the hill.
Talking of starts, a race is about to start now for the Clubman Series. And once again, it's over to Mike.
Thank you very much, Evan Green. Talking, of course, to Alan Moffat, that we'll be seeing in action in the second heat of the Better Brakes CRC AMSCAR Series this afternoon. Then, of course, Alan Moffat and the RX-7 boys will be meeting the V8s in the 25-lap final. Gary Wilkinson with me. We have the field lined up now prior to coming out onto the grid for the Art Carved Diamonds Permanent Pantry Clubman Series Round 2. A mouthful.
It is indeed, but the funny part about it is they go a lot quicker than it takes to say the name. In fact, that car there, 44, Peter Boylan's Cheetah, was the fastest car of all around here in practice yesterday, 51 seconds, and that puts him on pole for this Clubman race today. And that really is moving around here. He was faster than that big car of Phil Ward's.
1.5 seconds faster than car number 9. That's the Cheetah, be driven by Keith McClellan. Car number 6, Brad Wright, and the Moore at a 53.3. There you can see the lineup of the Clubman cars positioned down the pit row as we await instructions from the clerk, of course, for the field to come out onto the track. A marvellous day for motor racing here at Amaru Park today, and an enormous crowd here as well.
Yes, in fact, just wandering back from talking with Alan Moffat, looking at the crowd there in the hills, they're having the most beautiful time here. It's a lovely sight here at Amaru Park in a natural valley, and on a day as glorious as we're having here today, the crowd really has a great spectacle to look at the moment. In fact, out on the track, there's rather an amusing sort of spectacle, because some of the cars that are going to be competing here in the Shell Mileage Marathon on June the 7th have been running around the short circuit in little spindly wheel devices that give up to 2,000 miles per gallon. It's an event that's been run for a number of years at other circuits, Warwick Farm and so on. But some of the participants have been here just turning on a demonstration for the crowd, just to let them see what strange devices they are. They're being wheeled on the course at the moment, as the Clubman cars, an entirely different sort of vehicle, although not dissimilar with their exposed wheels, are coming out onto the track for this Art Carved Diamonds Permanent Pantry, etc. Clubman Series event, which will be run over 10 laps.
While they're coming out, I might also mention, for the benefit of our viewers, that although you won't be able to notice it today, over the next couple of meetings here, you'll notice a different look about our telecast, because they've got a couple of bulldozers out in the centre areas of the track, and they're carving down some of the infield hills and slopes, and it's going to open up quite a few new camera shots for our camera positions around the track, and it's going to make for a lot better viewing. In fact, down at Honda Corner, the wall, you can see the earthworks going on there over the back part of the circuit. That's all being moved, carved right down, so that shot through there, you'll be able to follow the cars right around past the Peter Warren sign, going right back around the top into Mazda. Then the cars come down into Honda Corner. Well, the wall there around Honda Corner is being pushed right back to about where the right-hand edge of the picture is at the moment. And you'll be able to look straight through there and see the cars streaming all the way down the hill and all the way with the wheels up going around Honda Corner. And it's going to clean up that back section of the circuit remarkably, and it's going to allow us to bring you a much, much better picture of motor racing here at the Amaru Park circuit. I reckon it's a great idea.
The track itself won't change, of course. It's just the surroundings which will be different. We'll have not only a better view for you to see, but more room for the drivers to run when they go off the track. A bit more space to lose the cars in. The car's now coming to the grid for the start of this race. Peter Boylan in his Cheetah on pole position yesterday with his time of 51 seconds, as Gary was saying, the quickest recorded by any driver in any car in practice yesterday. So these strange-looking devices, these Clubman cars, are fast around here. That's Boylan in 44.
Don't make too many appearances here of late, though, do they, the Clubmans?
This is their second, I think, for the season in their series. I thought their first race at our opening meeting was one of the best of the day. They were very, very close indeed.
Great race. I, of course, missed the last meeting. I was overseas, so I only recall that first meeting. But On the second row of the grid, or is it further back? 53 is further back. That's Dave Thompson in a Datsun engine special. Alongside him, car 76 is Malcolm McLean in a Nota, an Australian-built clubman, wedge shape. And car number 7 is Barry Olroyd in a Panther. He'll have alongside him car number 8, Wesley McClellan in another Nota. 56 is John Metcalf in a Robin. 96 is Les Rose in a Bullant.
There's plenty of those here today.
18 is Wally Gates in another Bullant, so there are a pair of them there. Goodness knows what they might get up to if they don't win the race. Just don't step on them.
We're just about ready for the start of the race. Flag is up and they're racing now. 10 laps the distance of the Art Car Diamonds Permanent Pantry Clubman Series. This is round number 2. 22, Graham McClintock getting a very, very good start there as they go up to the top of Marlborough Crest. They'll drop into the right-hand dip, of course, at Dunlop. And as they go through their number 22, it's McClintock who has taken the lead away. Boylan was a little slow to begin there.
Yeah, this is strange. A man who is so fast in practice not to be in front. One would have thought he'd be just running away, but he's running back there in 3rd place, although showing signs of wanting to edge past already. But that's him back in 3rd place, Boylan. McClintock, who made the demon start.
I noticed the first round winner here too, Keith McClelland, would seem to be a non-starter.
Yes,
well, there's
a
lose for number 76, Malcolm McLean in the Nota, but he's safely back in action again.
It's McClintock leading Brad Wright at the moment in the Moor, and behind them is Peter Boylan. They're the leading 3.
Well, this Boylan, of course, was fastest qualifier, but he's been outgunned in the first lap. He's making another bid coming up the hill here to recoup some of that lost ground.
He's moving up on Brad Wright, but Wright wasn't giving him any ground, and they went side by side up top Bitchpape. We'll see how they come out. They come out side by side, and Boylan has to be content with 3rd place still. And it's Wright in car number 6 who's really pressing Graham McClintock, the leader, for the front of the field. Now you can see Boylan moving on the inside. That was a good move there. He drove in hard and fast and just out-cornered Wright, and he's moved up into 2nd place. Now he's after the leader, McClintock.
McClintock still leads down to the left-hander at Honda as they come through there. Boylan very, very close this time, swinging down through the Little King towards Winfield Corner, the right-hander. Nowhere to go at the end of this short straight. Let me tell you, there's a concrete wall. Here they come through the turn. McClintock through there quite nicely. Wright fairly close to them. These two starting to clear away now from the 3rd place driver. But McClintock still there, and here on the inside comes Peter Boylan, the pole sitter, who will take the lead away. Will he? Yes, he does. And the run of Betcher Pave to the top of Marlborough Crest and down into Dunlop Loop. So our pole sitter, Peter Boylan, and the cheetah has now hit the front.
Well, the absence of McClelland could make the race for him here because, as I said, McClelland was the race winner in the first round and Boylan finished 2nd. If he can take today's race, it sets him up well for the Clubman Series here at Amarillo.
Boylan's flying right now, but when he passed McClintock, he was so close to the back of the car, he could have changed the rear wheel. I thought they were going to touch, in fact, but once having got clear of him, he's really scooting away. Look at him go.
Very, very quick yesterday with, as we said, 1.5 seconds.
Graham McClintock is off there.
Yes.
Went back on, but it hasn't done him any good.
They're trying very hard to keep contact with Boylan, and he's dropped back quite a few places and has let Wright, it was Wright, was it, who went off, car 6?
I think it was.
Yes. So Wright trying hard to keep in contention with those leading 2 has dropped back a bit now.
There's Dave Thompson in the Datsun. Coming up Bitchapave Hill again. So the leader is really cleared right out in this 10-lap affair for the Clubman cars. There's our race leader coming down towards Mazda Corner, Peter Boylan, number 44. 1.5 seconds quicker yesterday in practice, so he's starting to stream away at probably that rate per lap.
It's immaculately presented, that car, isn't it?
Magnificent.
Cheetah.
That's the name of the car, of course, folks.
Well, Peter Boylan,
he's driving it very tidily too.
Yeah, he doesn't have to pull any tricks. He's just got the car going so well, and he's driving it so well. And as you saw, perhaps it wasn't any mistake on his part that cost him ground at the start. He may have been content. Look at that gap. And here we come with the Dave Thompson in the Datsun in 2nd place now, about 250 metres astern of our race leader, Peter Boylan.
The Cheetah, a car built in Victoria by Brian Sampson, Brian Sheed, who also have run Australian Formula 2 cars. Clubman only have engine capacities of 1.3 litres. In other words, about the size of your small Toyota Corollas, but they do go quickly. They're very light, not aerodynamic because they don't achieve very fast ultimate speeds, but they've got great acceleration and, above all, great handling and braking because of the lightweight and the a very specialised construction. A lot of fun. It's not an expensive category to get into, apparently, which is why so many of the fellas have a go. They can afford it. The cars are quick. They're genuine racing cars, but they are called clubmen because they're aimed to appeal to that segment of the motorsporting fraternity. He's bouncing around a bit, not having the smoothest ride. You can see him really jarring there, a bit like a Formula One driver with the rigid sort of suspension that they have. There's not much movement there, I'd say, by the way he's being pounded around.
The car in front is fire engine red, but the man driving the second place car, in fact, is a firefighter, Dave Thompson, from, believe it or not, Sassafras.
Well, if he gets within hose length, he'll be right.
Interesting to see our leader coming down in his fire engine red car, Peter Boylan, in fact sponsored by the Pink Pages.
Next time we get a shot, actually, at the second place car, the yellow Datsun car 53, Dave Thompson. He's only resumed racing this year after a break of 10 years, Evan. This is, in fact, only his 4th competitive event back since he resumed. Really? Not a bad effort, and he's, I think, going to be a force to contend with, provided he can keep the car going, perhaps even a touch better than it is at the present time, because he's certainly been outdistanced by the race leader, Peter Boylan.
Well, so is everyone else, though, but it's a great effort by someone who's been out of the sport for so long, because driving a car, he gets really...
It's McClintock.
That's right.
He's fighting his way back again, McClintock and the Hargle. Here comes McClintock up on the outside, having that good run with Dave Thompson and the Datsun that we mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, the race leader Boylan continues to run right away from the pack.
Now, having given Thompson a rap, he's going backwards.
You get the impression that some of the constructors of these cars have a sense of humour. I mean, you'd hardly call a car a Hargle or a Bullant or a Morway if you wanted to launch it on the commercial market. They're one-off specials, or sometimes they build them in batches of small numbers. But they're not built for commercial purposes, just for the entertainment of the drivers, and one suspects the amusement of the owner. Not every man who owns a Hargle or a Bullant. 3
laps to go as he crosses the start-finish line for Peter Boylan, disappearing off the left of your screen in the Cheetah.
Dave Thompson is running in second place as of lap 6 from car 6, which is Brad Wright, the man who spun out. Then car number 8 is next. That's Wesley McClellan. He's running in 4th place ahead of car 22. Graham McClintock clawing way back up the field to come into the top 5. Then car number 98, Rod Farrell, in the barrel, which is a good effort. He started way back in the 11th spot on the grid, so he's done well to go to 6th place. Car number 20 is next. That's John Kira in the Robin. He started even further back, so he's also done particularly well. And number 96, not your old resurrected TV program, but Les Rose in a Bullant is putting a sting in the tail of the field as he follows him around. Only one car behind him, car number 21, Noel McDonald in another Farrell. And they're the only cars we have listed here. 9 cars still competing in this 10-lap race for Clubman Series cars.
Well, McClellan was leading the points score for the Art Carved Diamonds Permanent Pantry Series. Boylan in second place on 18. But looking like he's going to register a win in the round here this afternoon. That will take Boylan through to establish a good lead. McClellan out of competition today, so although he has 27 points, he should be still at least in the top 4 after missing the round. Down to put a lap on one of the slower cars, who signals him to the inside and goes to the outside, and there's our race leader, Peter Boylan. Just going through the motions, really. He's well and truly out in front.
A lot of onus on drivers being overtaken to keep their eyes on their mirrors. You may see, if you look closely at the Cheetah of Boylan, the 2 mirrors he has. See those 2 high streamlined devices up in front of him, looking like microphones facing the President of the USA. Well, they're his rear vision mirrors, too, up high so they clear the bulk of the car. And all the cars have a similar setup so they can look for cars behind.
He's had the last lap board, and he's got this race well and truly, barring anything untoward, in his keeping, as Peter Boylan in the Cheetah. I think he's taking it carefully and comfortably as he laps a few slower cars on his last circuit of the track. The last of 10 laps in the second round of the Art Carved Diamonds Permanent Pantry Clubman Series here at Emerald Park. Down into Winfield. Checkered flag is up and out as he goes through Wonderlic for the last time with commensurate ease. A victor in round 2 of the Clubman Series at Emerald Park. Peter Boylan will be pretty happy with himself. He came up to me before the meeting started and quite proudly pointed out that he was the fastest man around the circuit here yesterday, and expected to keep up that record today, and I think Probably not far off the mark. Certainly a very comfortable win.
So much for round 2 of the Art Carved Diamonds Permanent Pantry Series. A win going to Peter Boylan in car number 44. I would tip that our viewers across Australia this afternoon are going to see too many more race wins recorded so easily, because we have quite a number of different facets of motorsport to present to you. Different types of cars today. The booming V8 sports sedans, of course. We have to see the Mazdas in action, and of course the Minis. But we've got more action coming up when we return live to Amaroo Park Motor Racing near Sydney.
Welcome back to Amaroo Park. What a great day. We're just awaiting Peter Boylan, who was the easiest of winners in that Clubman heat just decided. We've got a small presentation here to make to him on behalf of Permanent Pantry and Art Carved Diamonds. And I think it's thoroughly deserved, because he turned that car out immaculately, and it certainly ran in the same fashion, and he deserved the win. Boom, boom. Here he is.
We had to run the last bit.
Hey, you drive.
Really?
You run almost as fast as you drive.
Thanks, Gary.
Hey, listen, you're the leader in this series now. What happened to Keith McClellan? Why didn't he get off the grid today?
Really unfortunate. A tiny little thing in his distributor broke, and in turn dropped into his motor, and he couldn't get it together. G-Cell would be very upset not to see him running, but I suppose that's motor racing.
For a minute there off the start, I didn't think you were going to get it together.
Well, I didn't get it together. I had 2 blokes in front of me very quickly. It's very close racing, as you could see, but once I got in front of the boys, they made me work hard, and I got going. I was hoping I got under the lap record, but I was too busy to find out what sort of times I got.
Well, you didn't have an awful lot of trouble once you did get to the front, though.
Oh, no. It's a beautiful day today and a beautiful circuit, and it's the best it's ever run, and my car is running brilliantly, thanks to David Wynn and the boys. They put in a lot of time. I'm just here, the man that had to sit in it and run it.
Well, hold your hand out, because Jennifer Harden is here on behalf of Permanent Pantry and Art Carved Diamonds.
Thanks, Jenny.
A very well-deserved win.
Thank you. And I must not only accept this, not only for myself, but for all the guys that have helped me, and a lot of guys, C&E Steering that set up my car, Peter Behag that did all the design work to make it sort of look a little bit different in the new look Clubmans, and thank you very much for all those people that are watching that have given me a lot of moral support as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter Boylan. We've got more AMSCAR action coming from Amaroo Park.
The rear of the Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodore, number 05. It's been a familiar sight for many touring car drivers in Australia for a fair period of time. The driver, of course, usually associated with the car, is Peter Brock, who is unfortunately missing today. But quite happy to take the driver's seat is John Harvey, who is the Marlborough Holden dealer team manager, and of course the winner of the CRC race. Well, back into harness again, John.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased to be back here this weekend, having not had a drive since Bathurst last year. And I'll use this to get myself into gear for the endurance races, which are coming up later on in the year.
A lot of people would say Alan Moffat is on a winning binge at the moment. Peter Brock isn't here. Why?
Well, Peter's very busy at the moment supervising the building of special cars for one of our major sponsors. That's the Holden Dealers of Australia. And we fell a little bit behind in that program this year with our heavy race program. And so Peter's back supervising all that at the moment.
Well, at the moment, as you say, Alan Moffat is quite hot. Can the Marlborough Holden dealer team, can Dick Johnson and a few of the other V8 drivers come back to stop this Mazda challenge?
Well, I think come the endurance races later on in the year, we'll be more than competitive with Alan Moffat. I mean, obviously, he's making a fool of us at the moment with his, well, you might say sports car against touring cars. But be that as it may, the Mazda is in touring car racing, and we have to live with it. He's obviously very cocky at the moment because he's on a winning streak. But come the endurance races, I think we'll have a few surprises for him.
Down momentarily, but not out. John Harvey and the Marlborough Holden dealer team certain to come back in the big races, including the James Hardy 1000 Classic.
And we're about to find out just what sort of a threat the smaller capacity cars, and when we talk about that, we're really talking about RX-7s primarily, are going to pose here this afternoon. We've seen Harv and we've seen the big V8s in action in their heat, the opening race on the program. Now it's time for the second AMSCAR heat today, Evan Green, and by gee, they really are going well, these cars, not just Alan Moffat either.
No, there's a nice mixture of cars here as well. We have the rotary engine Mazda RX-7s, which really have become very potent cars since they allowed peripheral porting, but there's that turbocharged Nissan Datsun, there's the black BMW 635. We're looking at now car 31 with Jim Richards, and there are a couple of Ford Capris in the field, as well as smaller cars, a Corolla of Alexander Surplus, Bob Holden's Escort, Peter Johnson's Golf, and so on. But it's mainly a race for the RX-7s versus the others. On the front row of the grid, Alan Moffat, car 43, alongside him only a tenth of a second slower in practice yesterday, Barry Jones. Jones out to make a point. He's in car 41. They're the two to watch. They're on the front row.
Flag drops. Oh, Moffat, a brilliant start. Great start. In fact, he's out a length, car length and a half, 2 lengths in front of Jones already.
But Freddie Gibson's made a good start too, although he's now being engulfed by rotaries, but the Mazda Turbo got away pretty well. He was up in third place, but it looks like there'll be a Mazda swarm as they come over the top of the hill first time.
1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 of them in a line.
Almost a little tap there between Barry Jones and Alan Moffat, but Moffat leads down the backside of the course. Look at this Mazda RX-7 challenge. Boy, it's on the boil here today at Amaroo Park. And look how close Jones is to Moffat as they come down towards the left-hander. And I think Jones with a point to prove as Moffat swings through the corner now, Honda corner, works away, and just look how close Jones is, all over him like a rash, as they say.
And Terry
is down the outside. We've got a good race going here, folks, through Winfield Corner for the first time. And AM, the Moffat man, leads a little sideways, and
Richards trying to push through.
One off the track down there in the bottom corner. We'll pick up the race, though, as they complete one of 10 circuits here at Amaroo Park. And this heat now for the non-V8s of the Better Break CRC. Moffat leads over the top of the hill. Barry Jones close, and Terry Shield even closer.
It may have been Steve Marston who went off the course. One of the Capris, I'd say, has gone off. No damage. He's just out of the race, I'd say that. But the Capris are having the RX-7s, rather, having a ding-dong battle up there at the front. Moffat was telling me before the race, he may have caught the interview, where he said the start would be vital in the of Alexander Surplus.
Yes, a surplus of power.
Yes, you just got into that.
Okay, through the corner again, Alan Moffat leading down here, and if Alan thought it was going to be an easy shake.
Here goes Shield
in the Mazda factory car. Look at this. Shield all over Jones, wants to get on with it. He thinks he might have enough to get on with Moffat. Caught a little wide was Jones. Cardiac arrest there as they exit that turn, work up towards Kamalko Wunderlich turn, and now back onto the straightaway. 2 laps completed, 8 laps remain. Alan Moffat in front, marginally over Terry Shield, and Barry Jones in a real humdinger of a 10-lapper.
Shield certainly took the wrapping of the chocolate that time. He came so close behind Jones. Jones wouldn't be very happy. He was making a move on Moffat, and suddenly he finds he's back in third place. Shield, a very aggressive driver, not happy being in the second row, feels he's a bit overshadowed by this newcomer to the Mazda ranks, Alan Moffat. Moffat was telling me before, as I was saying, that the start was going to be vital for the big race. Well, my goodness me, if he can repeat a start like he made in this race, he'll be very hard to catch. He was off the line like a stone out of a slingshot.
Through Honda again, short straight, a little kink there as they head down to Winfield Corner, and here's Shield closing up just a little bit on Alan Moffat. Moffat was stretching it to the top of the hill last time, but they're very close indeed. 2 home track boys, of course, at Amaroo Park Raceway are Terry Shield and Alan Moffat. Look at that sideways coming off the corner. Great stuff this in this very, very exciting race. 7 laps remaining in this heat for the non-V8s to the top of the Marlborough Loop and down into Dunlop. And here's Moffat. Boy, has he got some challenges.
And in 4th place, just outside, is Tony Kavich in another RX-7, and then Jim Richards in the JPS BMW running back in 5th place.
Alan thought Bathurst might be a breeze this year. I don't think he accounted for one Terry Shield and Barry Jones.
Well, they've got something to prove, Mike. They're out to show that they're just as good as this man Moffat is, and they're going to make life as miserable as they possibly can for him. Shield at the moment is doing the harrying, but Jones is just waiting for his turn again.
I think Jones has decided it's not going to come. Victory in this race for himself. It's a case of getting off the line very quickly in the final. Once again, through Winfield turn, Alan Moffat, number 43, the Stuyvesant Mazda leads from Terry Shield and Barry Jones and the Darrell Lee Chocolates.
It wasn't Steve Marston, by the way. I'm happy to say he went off in the Capri. He's still running. He's back just behind Jim Richards.
Yes, he's up to 6th place. Not a bad effort because the Capris really have been outgunned recently, have they? By these, haven't they? By these RX-7s.
I tell you what, if Alan hiccups here, they'll have the first 3 down. Through Dunlop. Clinging right to the bumper of the leading Mazda is, of course, Terry Shield, and Barry Jones probably just sitting just as quickly and as close on the bumper of Terry Shield. A good race, this.
Looks as though he's anxious to go a little faster and try and get... Oh, here comes Jones. It's been like this right from the outset. Nip and tuck, all 3 of them. Moffat really must be concentrating so hard at the moment to try and ward off these two people behind him. One slip and he's gone.
An enormous burden on the shoulders of Alan Moffat, the man who was the bright star of Australian touring car racing for so many years, deserted the big car ranks, had a point to prove with Mazda. Well, he certainly proved it in the last few races, but he's got some challenges today, and there's goes Shield on the inside. He's got the line. Moffat won't move over, but whether Shield can persist, I don't know. Jones is following through, and goodness me, the three of them are going to come over here locked together. Jones on the outside. He might get a good line coming through out of this corner because he's taken a wider line through. He might go from inside, but there's just no line opening up there. The others have blocked it off. Moffat has the perfect line. Shield follows. Jones behind, just waving his nose out in the airstream, looking for a way through. Has to stay back. They go through Mazda. Down towards Honda now. This may be a place where big hearts will count, but Moffat's got his heart as big as anyone, and he takes the line, and he leads Shield through. Jones back in third place.
There are other cars in the race, folks, but this is where it's all happening, right up front. Moffat, Shield, Jones.
Moffat draws away just for a second or two on certain parts of the track, but Shield, I think, just through sheer bravado, is back on his tail at the next corner.
Yes, into the corners. Shield just manages to make up that ground and then has a bit of a go coming out again. But where there's any sort of a straight at all, Moffat just manages to edge away a little bit to keep himself safe for the time being.
Tony Kavich crosses the line, and then Jim Richards in the black BMW. They're coming fourth and fifth. And then Steve Marston in
there's
sixth
one
place.
that's banged the wall, I think, or Alexander's Mazda RX-7. I think it's in fact popped the rear window open. He's had a little tap there by the look of it, and is heading to turn left at the end of the pit road.
Get the esky out of the boot. He's hit in the back, or he's been spun, but the back has been knocked in Alexander's RX-7. He's reversing off the track and out of the race.
Well, the race continues, of course, coming in to put a lap on a couple of the slower cars, one Capri in particular. Alan Moffat on Shield was very sideways that time, but very quickly is all over Moffat again like a blanket as they come out of Camalco Turn. One more lap completed in this run to the checker flag with about three remaining, and look at Shield once again right on the tail of Alan Moffat up Pitcher Pave Hill to the top of Marlborough, now down into Dunlop Loop again.
And look at the experience of Moffat there. He knew the man was catching him because the airstream effect alone was putting him past, and Moffat got into the one part of the track which gave him the complete line. They couldn't go left or right, and Moffat just out-generaled them through the corner. And look at Jones at the back there. If he was any closer, he could look in the boot to see how the spare wheel was.
And if you think this is fun, what's going to happen when we sprinkle the V8 in there?
Well, you put Alan Grice there, who has some points to prove and was very fast in practice yesterday.
Moffat got away there just a bit.
This is where he gets away, and then all of a sudden Shield will close it up before the next corner. See the gap there now. Now watch Shield as they head down to Winfield Corner.
The thing that Moffat would be hoping for would be the two behind get involved in the dice for second place, because that might just...
every chance.
Well, that might just let them drop back a little bit, because if Jones can get into Shield's way, that will help Moffat.
Here we go, folks.
Now it's all
give or take. And Shield on the inside, and Moffat, I think, has enough to carry it on and out accelerate him to the top of the hill.
Moffat won't give up the line. Let's see what they can do, because they're going there in a desperate way, but Moffat goes through first. He's all out of shape as they go through Dunlop. Shield tries on the inside. Jones is watching. I reckon his mouth is opening in awe, but he's going to hang on there and just see what happens in front. Moffat holds on. That was brave driving.
Can't take anything away from the man, can you?
No.
He went over that corner, I reckon, about 130 miles an hour, and the wrong line, and he held it, and he braked later, and he got back in the lead. And that was great driving by Alan Moffat.
I bet he's really looking forward to coming and doing the CRC big race later in the year. We've got a couple of local Mazdas putting it on the pressure on him right from the start of this one. They've got a couple
coming up in front here with one lap to go too.
And they're passing each other, two escorts. There they are, side by side. They've got to get out of each other's way, but the three leaders are coming. A critical stage of the race.
Say chaps to the left. Oh, look at this. They all managed to negotiate that, and full credit to those two drivers too, who held their position on the track. Could have been a pretty nasty moment there. Over the top for the final time, past Marlborough into Dunlop Loop. Alan Moffat, number 43 Stuyvesant Mazda, leads from Terry Shield, Barry Jones in the Darrell Lee car. Very, very close. They're going to fight out the remaining half lap of this race as they fought out the first half lap.
And what a portent for the sort of race we're going to see in the 25-lap final when they're mixed up with V8s and other cars. Goodness me, it should be some good racing. But these three are evenly matched.
Honda, Moffat, car 43 still leads. Trying to place Boy, the pressure has been fierce right from the outset. From the man there, you can see on the left of the screen, Terry Shield, or on the left now is Barry Jones. Splitting them is Terry Shield. Round they go again. Shield hasn't given up. There's only about 200 metres to go in the race, but he's not giving up.
What a race, and what a scene setter for later this afternoon as Alan Moffat crosses the line to take a heat win in in the Mazda RX-7. Second in the Mazda RX-7 was Terry Shield of Sydney, and third in another Mazda RX-7 was Barry Jones. I'll tell you what, there might have been a lot of controversy coming out of the final of the Australian Touring Car Championship at Surfers Paradise for all you Queensland viewers, with Dick Johnson going off the circuit. I think Dick could have done with a little aid from two Mazda drivers from Sydney, because these fellows are certainly very, very competitive against Alan Moffat, who has brought perhaps some criticism from a few touring car drivers who have referred to finishing a race behind Moffat in the only touring car in the race. But no doubt about it, Moffat has helped to pull a very, very big crowd to Amaroo Park today. Good for his sponsors and good for the spectators, because they've got a great race out of it.
There's certainly a lot of controversy about these peripheral court Mazdas, but it certainly brought the crowd in, as you say, Mark. In fourth place then was Tony Cabbage in another RX-7. Fifth place, Jim Richards in the JPS BMW 633. Behind him, Steve Marston in the Ford Capri. Then car number 56, which makes that's Fred Gibson in the Bluebird Turbo. He was running better than that, but got shuffled off the course by a couple of cars halfway through the race. So a good result by Freddie Gibson. Car 13, Bob Holden in the Ford Escort. One of those two cars passed just in front of car 63, Paul McDonald. Back to Amaroo Park in a few moments.
Well, Jim Richards, in practice, you were 9/10 of a second quicker around Amaroo than the BMW has ever gone before, yet you have to carry a lot of extra weight. How much weight?
I think it's around about 190 odd pounds, but I'm not dead sure. The car seems to handle the Amaroo circuit better than it did last weekend at Surfers, probably because it's a little bit shorter. The weight doesn't seem to affect around here that much.
Why the extra weight?
Well, I'm not really quite au fait with why, but apparently this year, for some reason, the car must weigh the same weight as a Falcon rather than the same weight as a Commodore as it ran last year. I don't know why.
And you're carrying it as added lead ballast?
Yes.
What effect does it have on the performance?
Well, it just drops the performance off slightly, as naturally it would. But
it's like me having me in a cut lunch in the boot, isn't it?
That's right. It's like taking you for a run round. That's right.
Now, yet you're still going quickly. What are your prospects for this race, and I suppose more significantly for some of the longer races, which must be the forte of the BMW, like Bathurst?
Well, I think with the current weight that the car's got to run, obviously it's not going to feature too highly in the overall placings today, because it's weighing the same as a Falcon virtually, with 170 horsepower less. But in the future, if they can iron all the little problems out, I'm thinking it'll definitely be a contender for the outright placings in long distance races.
You ever driven a Mini, Jim?
No, I haven't, no.
You've driven against them many times.
Yes, I have.
Well, let's you and I watch the next races, because it's 4 Minis, and to tell you all about it is over again to Gary.
Right.
Thank you very much, Evan Green. Unfortunately, there's a very familiar face missing from the Mini lineup here at Amaroo Park this afternoon, and that's Ross Wittig. In practice yesterday, the crankshaft in his super little Mini snapped and destroyed the engine. Oops. And it's going to take him about 3 or 4 months to rebuild, because he's got a lot of one-off parts that he's got to get from England. And I think probably we won't see him back in action. Well, we won't see him back in action here this season. A real disappointment for Ross, because he always goes so very well out here. He was running third in the series, and they had the car going tremendously well, but he's out of business. And the man from Victoria, Daryl Gretgrix, has pole position here with a 56.3, sharing the front row of the grid with Clyde Lee with a 57.4. So there's over a second between the two cars on the front of the grid.
Yes, and I can't see Clyde Lee really staying with Gretgrix. He was very, very quick at the last Amaroo Park meeting here. And I share the disappointment of poor Ross Wittig not being able to line up today, because he has probably been the dominant mini man here in the Classic Wax Series so far this season. But still, we have a good lineup of cars. See them wearing in their tyres.
Yes, it's quite a warm day here today, but they're certainly putting a lot of work into putting extra heat into the rubber so that they'll get proper grip for the start. They haven't gone mad or playing some strange conga game. They're just trying to get as much friction generated as they can to put heat into those tyres, particularly the front ones, which is where the power goes in the Mini, of course, to get them off the line in the fashion of a dragster, where they try to melt the tread at the moment of departure.
Look at that crowd, will you, across the top of the hill there. Oh, gee, tremendous.
Yes, enormous crowd here today.
Great weather, great racing. I think the combination of the two has helped to bring them out.
And a great atmosphere too. A tremendous sense of thrill went through the crowd in that last race, and when Moffat crossed the line in front of Terry Shield and Barry Jones, the crowd on the hill stood and applauded them to a man. It was just like the old days when you could feel the hills shake with emotion when the great drivers came out, and that was a marvellous scrap. Oh boy, if the big race, the big 25 lapper is like that, as it should be, with a few other people added amongst them, like Alan Grice, Colin Bond, and Johnny Harvey, it should be a great event.
Well, the series leader here, Evan, I was just about to say, Paul Adhart is back on the second row today in car 58. With a qualifying time of 59.5, which seems extraordinarily down on what Darryl Gretrix has been able to churn out of his machine with a 56.3.
Yeah, I think there's just some problem that he may have had in practice yesterday, so we could see Paul Adhart doing much better in the race. The fact that he's leading the series suggests that he's the most consistent driver here, which is means that we can expect to see him doing well. But very often you find you have to deal with some suspicion in practice times when there's such a difference. You know something has gone wrong because Adhart isn't that far behind Gretrix in terms of performance around here. Mind you, Gretrix is one of the top mini drivers, there's no doubt. And I do sympathise, like you, with the fellow who lost his engine because a crankshaft, when that goes, it destroys so much, and he'd have a total rebuild to face, wouldn't he, poor Ross Whittick? Well, the field is in the hands of the starter. There are 17 people lined up. Darryl Gretrix on the front row, alongside him Clyde Lee, car 88, that's 75 and 88. Paul Adhart in 58, 39 Roger Spencer. The starter. Once we raise the flag, we have about 7 seconds to the start of the race.
They're racing. Gretrix getting away smartly indeed, but 88 Clyde Lee, I think, has won the first gear exchange anyway, heading up the hill for the first time. Here's Gretrix pulling to the outside of him as the two of them race to the top of the hill, and Gretrix takes the lead away over the top into Marlborough, down into Dunlop Loop. Lee dropping very smartly into second place. Then name your challengers back in third to 6th or 10th place.
I thought for a moment that Lee must have been kidding in practice yesterday, the way he got off the front row there, but Gretrix quickly reeled him in and has assumed the place at the head of the field as qualifying time suggested. Hello, out of business goes Edward Gavin in car 80. He was well back on the grid, second last row. 75, Gretrix from Victoria, but frequent visitor to Amaroo Park and knows the circuit very well, going down into Winfield. Clyde Lee in pursuit, and they've opened up a substantial break already after just under one lap.
That was Rocky Canto, and he may well.
Yes.
Through Camelco turn, 1 lap of 8 completed. 7 remain for our race leader, Darryl Gretrix. So he leads up the front straight away. Lee's still in second place. Then back to number 38, Ken Kemp, who drops into third.
Yes, and then Roger Spencer and Reg Taylor, they're the next ones in that group as they go through. But a long gap between the leaders and the pack chasing them. Not like your normal mini race. We've got one man out in front, someone in fairly lonely pursuit, then a long drop back to the main pack. Well, I thought the car had gone off or the camera had gone off. Something happened there. He must have given the cameraman one hell of a fright. Anyhow, he's through. Darryl Gretrix sweeping down through Honda. He didn't make the best of starts, which is how he allowed Lee to get clear of him. Minis aren't easy to get off the line. A lot of power, all the weight at all the power at the front, whereas of course in starting the weight tends to be transferred towards the rear of the car, so they can pattern spin their wheels. And Lee just got it down a little bit better, but Gretrix soon made up for that and passed him, and now he's just running away with this race across the line to complete 2 laps. 6 to go. More of a race a little bit further back with Kemp still just in front of Taylor, and Wayne Gaunt next in that group running in 5th place, and the field much closer in this battle for 3rd position.
It's a change of lines here.
It's amazing, isn't it, Mike, that cars that are exactly the same can look so different when you see the way they're painted, or just the addition of wheel flares and those bearded spoilers to try and keep air from beneath the car. They all look very erect, a bit like racing in an Otis elevator.
Oh, good man with words. There's Reg Taylor coming through in car number 69, holding his place at the moment, looking for 3rd place. Still putting the challenge on, and he still has a couple behind him that are keeping him fairly honest in the pack at the moment.
I'm only mentioning Otis because I need a lift from the circuit.
Boom, boom.
Series leader Paul Adhart, who came off the second row of the grid, has dropped back to 9th place. So the car's just not going at all for him today. It must be a disappointment because he was in a good position, especially with the mishap to Whittick, to extend his grip on the series. There he is.
Maybe it explains that poor time in pack. Oops.
I say,
that's a bad precedent for going in that direction.
Wayne Gaunt, and he probably is right now.
Very, very much so. After, of course, Rod Darling exited from there at our first meeting of the season and went rock exploring and hasn't been seen since.
As he did the world's best mini imitation of a frisbee when he hit that. With a couple of loops with the doors open and the windscreens coming up, landed quite unhurt luckily, but he certainly did a sort of job that Albert G. Sims would have been proud of.
It's Ken Kemp who's holding down third place, but well astern of the leading pair at the moment, Darrell Gretrix and Clyde Lee. Up the hill goes Gretrix, unchallenged at this stage of the race, almost from the outset. Dragged Clyde Lee up the hill the first time after Lee had won the jump. Recaptured the front running over the top and has been cruising ever since, and just continues to pull away on Lee and the pair of them in turn. As the jump goes by, continue to drop the rest of the field further astern.
Minis have been part of the Australian racing scene for so many years that there must be quite old spectators now who can't remember the day when they didn't take part.
That's true.
But they've been racing. I can remember seeing them at the very first meeting at Warwick Farm, the little black minis with the Gagan brothers when they used to run them.
Peter Manton
and Brian Foley.
John Harvey, actually.
Ron Halen, yes, some names now that we don't hear too much of, which really were great competitors in their days. It's been a marvellous car lasting all these years, way back to the beginning of the 60s. And those of us who recall the great days and talk about the days of Manton and Foley, who probably were the giants of minis, tend to overlook the fact that these fellas go faster than Manton and Foley ever went. With the extra development that has gone on in the cars, the engines are now larger in capacity, they're lighter, their wheels have been changed, and there have been advances in technology, both as far as engine design and modifications they're allowed to make, and in things like lubricants. They can use oils now which are much better than the oils of 10 years ago in terms of conserving the engine. Oh, he does it again.
Oils ain't oils, Harry. Little sideways there, number 49. She came through the turn, trying to straighten it out.
Yeah, doing the old double gaunt on that trick. He really goes in hard. He certainly, I think, would have a limited slip diff at the front. And maybe it's just a little bit on the severe side in terms of lockup, because it's taken over the steering of the car, and he is almost doing a hard left there where he needs to go gently right. That is a very difficult part of the circuit. Amaru was hard all the way around. But up the top there, where they come in so fast, you've got to be precisely on line to get it right.
That's Reg Taylor in front of him, going down into Winfield Corner. Taylor holding down third spot in the race at the present time.
Well, the main action, as we've said, is really from third back to sixth in the race. Our race leader, Darrell Gretrix, is running well and truly away from this one. Clyde Lee in second place.
2 laps to go, and we might watch Gaunt up the top of the hill, see if he does it again. Twice now he's turned left where he meant to go right. We'll just see what he does. He's in the group up there, number 49. Here he goes. He's the red car with the white V. That's all nice. I said twice is enough. Whoops.
Oh, there's one that didn't make it, number 83, and that's Paul Lockwood. And he did, safely out of the way.
It's one thing to spin, but it's another to leave it parked where you can get rammed by the following car. And he just gets it going in time to get it out of harm's way. Some oil appearing from the back of the car may have some sort of mechanical trouble with putting in there rather than a driving problem. Here comes Gaunt leading the next group. He's just in front of car 42, Fred Sayers. Then number 39, Roger Spencer.
It's probably the quietest classic mini race that we've had in the series. Darrell Gretrix being able to run away with this at will. Certainly the non-appearance of Ross Whittig has made a difference to the spectacle of the race.
Well, Sayers is having a real go at Gaunt there. This is the last lap that they're on. The last lap board is out. Sayers pulling out there. Gaunt, the man who turns left. He won't want to turn left with the car right in front of him. In the meantime, that's Gretrix. Only got half a lap to go to finish this race. He's coming down towards Winfield. Just has to go through there. He has quite a nice lead now over car 88, Clyde lead. Sweep through the short straight, running down to Wunderlich. Through he goes. And a comfortable win to Darrell Gretrix. Up goes the hand, acknowledging the checkered flag. They're waiting for the second cars to come through. The next car through, in fact, was lapped, Edward Gavin. And an unusual...
Oh, I say... Excuse me, it's a bit soft out there too. He managed to get that one back under the control. That was Roger Spencer.
Well, he was one of those caught up in that Gaunt battle with Gaunt and Sayers. He dropped a bit of ground because of it, didn't lose any revs. Maintaining the finest traditions of mini drivers. And Gaunt wins his dice for the minor place there, ahead of Sayers. Spencer close up behind the others.
The remains of a mini. Or some of the little parts there that have fallen off after that little touch with the turn over there.
There are a lot of fiberglass in these cars, and if they have a bump, they tend to shed panels and bits and pieces quite a lot. You can see the mark up the striped edge of the track. Some of the debris there, so it takes just a few minutes to clean the track up as the marshals will go sweep up the corners to make sure things are right. And a win to Darrell Grettrex. Back to Amaroo Park in just a few minutes.
Well, Darrell Grettrex, that was an easier win than we're used to seeing here. How was it in the cockpit?
Oh, it was hard work, but it was made easy. Ross had a lot of problems yesterday, and I believe he's blown his motor very, very, very severely, and I don't know whether he'll come back into the sport again. It's a bit of a shame. A few of us might get together and help him. We'll see what happens.
It's pretty expensive when something like that happens, isn't it?
Oh, very, very expensive. I know what he's going through at this stage. We had it earlier on this year, but we managed to fix it.
Well, you're the one who's won the loot today, and to present the prize on behalf of Classic Wax, it's Ralph Thompson.
Thank you very much. Very, very kind. It was a very nice race. It was a little bit one-sided, but hearty congratulations. And on behalf of Classic Car Wax, I'd like to present you with some goods that I'm sure that'll come in very, very handy to keep you out there winning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you very much, Ralph, and Classic Car Wax for the sponsorship of the series. All the boys that are racing appreciate it tremendously. I hope you're with us next year. Thank you very much.
We were just talking about how long minis have been racing. How much longer can they go, Darrell?
Oh, they'll go forever. They'll go forever as long as there's a lot of enthusiastic young fellas. And I hope it does too.
As long as you can keep the crankshafts up to them.
Yeah, that's a big problem, yes.
Well, a great win then to Darrell Grettrex, and one of the misfortunes of being so good. If you win easily, people think it wasn't so good. But you work pretty hard to get out there, don't you?
You work very hard, and a lot of tribute's got to go to all the boys from KG and Northern, and all the fellas up here that have helped us this weekend too. Thank you.
We have a Formula Ford race coming up next. That's next on the exciting list when we return here with the action at Amaroo Park, brought to you live through the 7 Network.
You've only got to look at the grid for today's third round of the AMSCAR series here at Amaroo to see the rising tide of RX-7s that appear to be almost swamping the V8 machine. So why would a driver at this stage want to go into a V8? Terry Finnegan, good question. You've got a Commodore here. It's had one run only, and you're campaigning today. Why a V8?
We feel that, well, we bought the car originally to run at Bathurst or the endurance races, and we feel a V8 will still win those races.
Despite the fact that the RX-7s seem to be very dominant at the moment.
Oh, yes, but they have their engine problems as well as anything else. I've driven a couple of Mazdas, and I know their problems.
You've also driven quite a bit at Bathurst in the smaller classes.
I've had 6 runs at Bathurst. We won our class in 1980 in a Gemini.
You also have had an awful lot of experience going back, I think, 12 or 15 years in Formula 3, Formula 2 with a great deal of success. What's the difference in driving those and driving one of these great brutes?
I love driving open wheelers mainly, but there's no sponsorship there, although we have no sponsorship with this car. That's our main aim. But I love driving race cars, that's it.
Mm-hmm. OK, well, if the V8 is still the car for Bathurst, what about Amaroo today? I mean, there's an awful lot of RX-7s between you and the front of the grid.
There's 3 of them, 4 V8s. We're the 4th V8, so we've moved up a long way on the grid. We're 2 seconds a lap faster than last meeting. And we're, I think, 5 or 6 places up the grid, so we've got to be in a better position, I feel.
This is Charlie O'Brien's old Roadways car. Have you had to do an awful lot of work on it to get it competitive again?
A fair bit. We found that the car was fairly uncompetitive when we bought it. We've done a lot of work. I rebuilt the engine the last week. New tyres, etc. That's about it.
Well, there you go. Terry Finnegan, a man that's still got an awful lot of faith in the big V8s. We'll see how he goes this afternoon at Amaroo.
Thank you very much, Gary. With Terry Finnegan. And we'll keep an eye on Terry come time for the 25-lap final of the Better Break CRC AMSCAR round number 3 this afternoon. Well, the car's out on the track now for the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula Ford Series. This is round number 2, and a small but nonetheless exciting field of Formula Fords for this race, with number 21, Warwick Brooklyn, in the Moore, 56.3 on pole position.
He was second in an earlier race today, won by the veteran Formula Ford stalwart Don Bretlin. Bretlin will start further back in the field. He was only 4th fastest in practice yesterday. And Brooklyn, one of the young drivers in this formula, which is intended as a learning formula for the stars of tomorrow. was quickest in practice with 56.3. He's driving car number 21, the Australian-made Moore. Gary Tully will start alongside him in car number 5, an Elfin, built by the late Gary Cooper in South Australia. He was 3/10 of a second slower than Brooklyn in practice yesterday. And then we get into some more familiar names among some of the old-timers, if I can use that term kindly, in Formula Ford. Wally Story in an Elvin, who'll be on the second row. He's in car 43, and Don Bretland, who won early today in car 2 in the Van Diemen. It'll be a race over 10 laps, the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula Ford event. Almost always gives us good, exciting racing. Let's hope that's the sort of event we're in for today. Car 21 on the grid now. That's young Warwick Brooklyn, wearing the new full-face helmet type with the built-in mask to protect the driver in case of flame. Alongside him, car 5, Gary Tully.
Tully ran off in an earlier race today, Evan, and did some damage to the car, but obviously a bit of quick work through the lunchtime period has put him back.
Right.
He's the series leader too, so he had to get the work done and get on the track if he wants to stay in contention.
Well, let's hope the car's right. So often these rush jobs leave something wrong as far as suspension setup is concerned. We'll soon find out whether the Tully's car is handling well or not. He's on the front row. Wally Story in car number 43 is on the second row of the grid. There he is with Tim Murray all over the side of the car, but it's Wally Story behind the wheel, and Don Bretland is alongside him in car number 2. Further back, car 41 is Thomas Mazzera in a Calboro, and alongside there, car 30, Jeff Walters in an Elwyn. Car 24 is Jay McGinn, Matthew Ruggles, Goz Corey in an Elfin in car number 90. 98 is Anthony O'Donnell, Steve Juliana in a Bormac, and Richard Burgess in an Elfin. The race starts in 5 seconds' time. It's over 10 laps.
Flag down, and Warwick Brooklyn getting away very smartly on the inside. Gary Tully races up to him here on the outside in car number 5 as the two of them head up Bitchapay for the first time, but it's Brooklyn with the inside initiative that should come over the top of the hill in first place.
Tully could get caught out wide there.
And has, in fact. And that's enabled now Don Bretland to move up after a lightning start. Bretland, who started off position 4, now moves to second as they come out of the first corner. There's Bretland up on the tail of Brooklyn as they head down through Mazda and work now at the short run down the straight to Honda Corner.
So a lot of pressure on young Brooklyn, because this is a driver with some pretty wise old heads, and a lot of racecraft is required here.
Yes, I don't think you'll find it all plain sailing.
Down to Winfield Corner, and we see Bretland starting to close rather rapidly behind Warwick Brooklyn. A couple of them very wide. They one almost clipped the wall as they came out of that corner a little sideways. There's Brooklyn leading the first lap down. 9 laps remain in this Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula Ford Series round, with, of course, Don Bretland very smartly up into second place.
Brooklyn driving the Australian Moore, Bretland the English-built Van Diemen.
Wally Story now up into third place, and Tully back to fourth.
Yes, your observations about Tully may be very well correct there. Just looking back now to fourth place, and that mishap that he had in the earlier heat may have just thrown the suspension off or something, and it's not performing as well as he'd hoped. But certainly Brooklyn's car is giving him good service at the present time. He finished second in that earlier heat and is in second place in the series.
So Matthew Ruggles, by the way, just had himself a little bit of a spin there, collected it all well, lost no more than time. I was looking at Brooklyn there. He sits well in the car. He's obviously a small young man, because he doesn't protrude as much as, say, Bretland or some of the others do. Some of them stick out so much that they must affect the handling slightly, but he snuggles right into the car, very much in the fashion of, say, a Roberto Moreno, the diminutive South American driver who was such a sensation in the last Australian Grand Prix. It's certainly a great asset in motor racing if you're small. You can get out of the airstream and yet control the car properly, and he fits in there very well. Seems to be part of the car, doesn't he?
He's quite tall, but I think he's fairly slight build, and he manages to get himself wedged right down in the car.
Yes, well, he may just be lying down and have the car tailored to his own size. Whatever it is, he is fitting better in the car than Bretland behind. Bretland is more erect. He's still down well below the roll bar, but he's further up. You can get a difference in head positions there. And, oh, there goes Bretland now. There's a bit of experience as he's probing on the inside. Brooklyn doesn't fall for it. He says, no, thank you, that's my corner, which is a good mark. One cross on the wall for Brooklyn. That was resisting Bretland's challenge. He'll try more. He'll press him as hard as he can. They're great sportsmen in Formula 4, but they give nothing away. And if he can frighten him or nervous him out of a corner, he'll do it. He'll try again.
Wally Story's lost out in a battle for third with Gary Tully. Tully assuming third place once more as they go over the top.
And now let's see if Bretland can apply more pressure. He takes a nice sweeping line there. Tully closing up again now. He might have come to grips with whatever the problem was. If it was a handling problem, let's just continue with that hypothesis. He might have learned to cope with it. So, okay, I know it's wrong. I can keep on going. Because he's going a little bit faster now. Catching up. Here comes Bretland. Let's see what he does. This corner and the next is where he'll try pressure. Throws the tail out there. Loses a little bit of time maybe, but gets very close. Whoops,
Tully's in the rough.
Yeah, then what he's waiting to, whether he had the hand up in the air for some reason.
Might have been a track photographer there.
He might have been just a wave back to home saying, I'm okay, thanks.
Here's Rookland still leading. Bretland close to him, keeping the pressure on young Rookland.
He may have a handling problem, Bretland. Do you notice the way he went round the corner there, tail out? Now, let's allow for some exuberance by a driver, but it's not the quicker way around. And he really was flinging the car into the corner rather than taking the smoother line. It'll be worth watching Bretland in some of these further corners. Whether a tyre is losing a bit of pressure, or whether he has some problem, or whether he just wants to drive that way, I don't know. But it was an unusual way for one so wise to go into that corner because it's not the quick way around.
Third place has been taken by Thomas Mazera in the Calboro R41 when Tully had that balloon.
Calboro was a little sideways. Oh, Calboro across the grass verge there, and he's come from nowhere actually.
He's driving it like a Mexican pepper. Look at this. Wherever there's a gap, he goes for it.
Si, senor.
He is going very hard, isn't he?
He certainly is. Bretland is now wondering what the devil's going on.
Oops. There's number 30 exiting from the race.
Jeff Walters in the Elwyn.
I'll have the next dance, thank you. Fantastic half spin there and off the track very gently. No damage to the car. But he's lost a lot of time before Jeff gets back in the race.
Thomas Mazera wants to go places in a hurry.
Mazera now on the tail of Bretland. We'll see if he can pull out a pass here coming up Bitchapave Hill. Seems to have an abundance of horsepower.
Well, it's disconcerted Bretland to the point where it's allowed Rookland now to get away with a fairly decent break in front.
And here's Mazera. That's a very game line. But he managed to pull it off.
Interesting to see what he can do now about closing on Rookland.
Well, he came out of nowhere, virtually sensationally quick through there.
Started off 6th position on the grid. Didn't do anything for the first 4 or 5 laps. And like a bolt out of the blue, in fact, on the 5th lap, has zipped up into 2nd place.
Yes, the driver of the race so far is young Thomas Mazera.
Well, look at the gap, Mike, that he's pulling on Bretland. He's got away now by 5 or 6 car lengths, and he's really hauling in.
Yes, looks like he's gunning after Rookland now, coming down into Winfield turn. Rookland's still very tidy in the car. Mazera a little sideways, but he's been able to more than make up for that with straight line speed. Bretland still on the pace there in 3rd place after being passed by Mazera. Laps running out, 10 laps the distance of this race, and you can see they've pulled right away from the 4th place driver.
Mazera seems to have lost a bit of pace too, whether he's got some sort of problem, whether he...
I think he prefers to have cars around him.
Maybe he touched the valve or something, I don't know. But he's just lost a bit of pace on the straights. He certainly goes hard on the corners. Let's see how he goes through the twisty part of the circuit, round Dunlop Loop, and then the sweep down towards Mazda. Here they go. And now down towards Honda.
Mazera finished in the 6th position in the first heat of the Formula Ford Series here.
He used the outside edge of the track that time, got the wheel in the rough. It's not the place to be rather adventurous at Amaroo Park, but he still holds down 2nd place. They've closed up perhaps a touch on young Rookland, but Bretland has certainly closed up.
Yes, he was trying to sideways bit and it allowed Bretland through, and Mazera will pay for that. He'll lose quite a bit of time.
I wasn't sure if Mazera was going back into the pits that time, but Bretland just lets him know little seniority doesn't hurt in this business.
I'll say this of Mazera, once he's passed, he doesn't give up. He'll try anywhere. If he can see daylight, he'll put his nose in. It's not the best formula necessary for a long-term survival in
Here he goes again.
Excuse me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
No, he's not bad at all. Probably get a job with Cumberland Cabs.
He's coming down on the outside now. No one's ever done that in the history of Amaroo Park. He's having a go at it. No, he decides that that's not the way to go. There may be space there, but not the sort of space that appeals to him. Let's see what he does as he comes towards Honda.
Whoops, a little sideways that time was Bretland. Bretland, I think, is more trying to close the gate. But unfortunately, our friend Mazera doesn't know what it is to have a gate closed in front of him.
Well, Bretland is going sideways a lot. I say he has some sort of handling problem. See how he's sliding around there?
Well, he's actually coerced Mazera into a bit of sideways racing too.
Right. Well, now Mazera's right behind him. We'll see what he can do up the hill. I don't think he's got the pace on him in terms of sheer power.
2 laps to go.
Yes, and he's dropped a little bit of distance there. They both did a bit of sideways motoring, and Don Bretland was a little faster.
Yeah, 24, a little...
Jay McGinn.
Yeah,
the
Oh, the new front end arrangement, as you can see there.
Yes. Wheel alignment, please.
Yes, he's just touched something, I think, and dragged the wheel out, broken
Just
part
down
of
to
the front
the
end.
stallion stable sign.
Bad luck for him again. Oh, he's looking at that thing. Oh, that's 3 nights working. He's okay. The marshal there does a bit of sympathy. Make sure he's okay. He knows how to drive the fields. In the meantime, all praise to Rooklyn. He has driven well. Very well contained. He's been under a little bit of pressure, not as much as we might have expected because of the dice back there in second place between Bretland and Mazzera. But
Bretland's still there in second, and Mazzera starting to make up that little bit of ground that he lost in the last lap. Bretland a little more tidy that time out of that corner. Mazzera's still there in third place.
Last lap board goes out for Rooklyn.
they do go close to the fence, don't they? You wouldn't want to be standing there for any particular reason. I was at the Long Beach Grand Prix, Mike, and I watched Nicky Lauda there go around the corner so close that he took a paper sign off the bricks without touching the bricks, and his wheels were peeling the paper off lap after lap. That's close. Maybe they were watching Nicky Lauda and decided if he can do it, they can do it.
But he wouldn't do it with Saturday's Sydney Morning Herald. Coming down the back straight, here's Mazzera warming up to another pass. I think he figures that second place would be better than third. Bretland still holding down second. Rooklyn, in the meantime, has vanished, gone well and truly through, but although held up momentarily by one of the slower cars, number 39, Richard Burgess. However, we'll take Burgess there on the outside as the dice continues right down to the last corner between Bretland and, of course, Mazzera. They both pass that slower car. Mazzera might have the line this time to the inside.
He's going to try for it. Bretland won't give it to him, but no, he chops across in front of him. Rooklyn takes the win. Bretland will come second. Mazzera will take third, but only just. That was a great effort by Mazzera. We must watch him. I don't know that driver, but he's certainly worth watching. He's a driver in the mould of, say, Lucio Cesario. You know, he really likes to win races, and that was a good effort by him. But let's take nothing away from the fellow who drove so well that he won it almost without trouble, and that was Warwick Rooklyn. He certainly handled that with a great deal of skill. Beyond his years, I'd say. Don Bretland in second place, and the ultra-enthusiastic young Thomas Mazzera in third place.
Well, an interesting second round of the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula Ford Series. Always a very interesting type of car to follow here at Amaroo Park, and a good win to young Warwick Rooklyn.
Wally Story came fourth, by the way. We didn't see much of Wally, who has been one of the stalwarts of Formula Ford, but he came home in fourth place, just ahead of car 5, Gary Tully, who I think did have trouble from his practice, or he's a bit in an earlier race, and he dropped back to come home in 5th place. In 6th place was car number 30, Jeff Walters. He was ahead of car 33, Matthew Ruggles, whom we saw in trouble a little early on, so that was a nice recovery by him. And the only other car to finish in the same area was Richard Burgess in car 39, who was lapped in that last lap by the winner of the race, Warwick Rooklyn. A great drive by the youngster to win the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula Ford race at Amaroo Park.
What we didn't realise while all that was going on out on the racetrack was that Warwick Rooklyn had a real race to get to the circuit. In fact, yesterday, not only did he just scrape in time, he qualified on pole, has led throughout, and now lead the series, Warwick. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was a bit of a surprise to get pole yesterday. It took a week to rebuild the car. Like, we thought the chassis might be a write-off, but...
had a little mishap at Surfers, did you?
Yeah, had a big crash in practice and sort of wrecked our... No, I didn't wreck our chance, but it doesn't help our chance in the TAA, but we got it together for this week, so it's good.
Well, the car basically then is still unsorted.
Yeah, we had all our suspension settings from before, and we just set it up to that and went out and just did it.
Although you appear to have an easy run in front, I suppose you were a little grateful to Thomas Mazzera that he came up, in fact, and started dicing with Don Bretland, because Don really could have pushed you pretty hard, I feel, if that hadn't been the case.
Yeah, Don's pretty good in the races. I've watched him a few times, and he knows his stuff when he's racing, so I was pretty happy to get a clear run.
Well, a winner, and now series leader, and Sharon McKay is here on behalf of Coca-Cola Bottlers.
Congratulations, Warwick. It wasn't an easy time getting here by the sounds of things, but you've won the race, and I'd like to present you with this trophy on behalf of the Coca-Cola Bottlers.
Well, I can only add our congratulations too, and just issue a word of warning. Try not to bend this one, will you?
No, keep it very straight for the rest of the season, I think.
Okay, congratulations, Warwick. Great win.
Right.
And now, series leader, as I said, in the Coca-Cola Bottlers Series for Formula Ford here at Amaroo Park, Phil Ward returns to racing, coming up very shortly.
Welcome back to Amaroo Park Raceway and to today's telecast. Well, in sports sedan racing, a name that's synonymous with being a winner, particularly when it comes to Amaroo Park, is Phil Ward, a driver who we haven't seen in ages, but he makes his comeback drive today after probably about 12 months.
Yes, I've been sitting at home watching the races on TV and it's been driving me crazy, and the car was sitting in the corner there, so I thought, I'll pull out and give it a bit of a wash and go out and have a run.
Well, in the Phil Ward turbocharging Monaro, which has a great history of being a race winner anyway, you've come back yesterday's practice and you're just a titch under 2 seconds faster than the your nearest challenger. That must be very gratifying.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased. I equalled Tony Edmondson, the national champion's lap record yesterday, and it's actually the fastest I've been around the circuit, so the rest must have done me good. But the old Monaro is still going pretty well. It's a grand old car. She's had over 100 wins in its history, and I'm just happy to be having a run around again. It's good fun.
No intentions of chasing the sports sedan title or anything? You're just quite happy to come out and have an occasional run?
Well, this year I won't be, but we have some plans on the board at the moment for a car for the new GT category for next year. It'll be a turbocharged car, and plans are underway for that at the moment. But at this stage, I'm just happy just to have a run, and the car's still for sale, so we're just giving her a bit of a sort of clear the cobwebs deal and make sure she's all good and ready for a new buyer.
Phil, I think you'd be the first to agree the competition this afternoon might be a bit tougher than the last time you were here. Who do you see as being the fella to beat?
Yeah, well, actually, the last time I raced in the Amaroo Series, I won every round, and I haven't had a run again in the series since then. But there's a couple of quick cars now. Paul Jones, his Monza, old mate Steve-O, and the other Monaro, which is actually the sister car to this car. He's having a run, and he's actually next to me on the grid, so he's probably my toughest opposition, and I hope we can have a good run together, actually.
Phil Ward, one of the drivers certainly to watch in the sports sedan, the V8 confrontation here today at Amaroo Park Raceway.
And another driver to watch, thank you, Mike, I would suggest would be Jeff Russell in Tirana number 2, because in an earlier heat today, in which Phil Ward wasn't competing, Russell was absolutely dynamic. He just ran away from the field and won it in quite sensational style. But a big field of cars, 25 taking part in this event, the 10-lap Comalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan Series Round 3. There's Russell in the Tirana. Some of these cars are so heavily disguised with flares and spoilers that you can't work out what the original car was. That was a Holden Tirana, and Russell did win the earlier race here today in very fine style. He won't start from the front row of the grid because due to practice times yesterday, he's back in position number 5 on the 3rd row.
In talking to Jeff Russell only, well, probably 15 minutes ago, he explained yesterday they had problems with fuel injection, and he believed that he could more than make up the 1.5 second deficit on Phil Ward in the final. So his times earlier today have indicated he's certainly faster than yesterday. Yeah. So we have all the makings of a great Comalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan race this afternoon.
Well, there's Phil Ward on the front row in car number 3. Alongside him in car 4 is Bob Stevens, one of the great competitors here at Amaroo for so many years. He's in the sister car to Ward's Holden Monaro, but he was almost 2 seconds slower in practice yesterday. Car number 77, John Burke in the Celica, who was very quick off the mark in the first race. Watch him because he made a tremendous start. Alongside him in car 6 is Paul Jones in the Chevy Monza. Then we come back to car 2, Jeff Russell, the man who won the race. It really is worth watching. Car number 84 is Stephen Land. 78, Doug Clark in a Celica. Land, of course, in a Tirana, as he has for a long time. The field is lined up there, some gaps in the middle, as you can see. The starter watching his flag raises the flag. The race has only 5 seconds before start time.
Ready, racing and getting away smartly off the mark indeed was Phil Ward. Stevens next to him. Then, of course, Paul Jones moving up very smartly indeed, and the Monza races up incredibly quickly into second place as they go over the top of Marlborough Dow down into Dunlop Loop. There's one going very wide indeed was Russell. He's up into 3rd place as they go through Dunlop Loop. The right-hander and work down towards Mazda Corner. Phil Ward, well and truly in command of the situation. Jones in 2nd place and Russell back in 3rd.
Russell took a massive dose of bravery pills and went on deep, and he went very wide but collected it well. He's up in 3rd place and he'll be worth watching. Already he's challenging for 2nd spot. That's him in 3rd place in car 2.
If anybody wants to buy a hot sports sedan, I mean hot in terms of performance, not in any other respect, see Phil Ward too, because that car barrelling out in front at the moment is for sale.
Oh, talking for sale, that might be the thought that John Burke has. He's out of the race, I'd say. Some sort of mechanical break is possibly, it's hard to say, but he's certainly retired on that central part of the track as Ward goes across to complete one lap, and side by side go Russell in the Tirana and Jones in the Monza.
Oh, look at this. Oh, goodness me, down in Wonderlick Corner, there's the... I don't know, I can't see through the dust.
Yes, there's been an
amazing car 11 has really been very badly damaged. Henry Wolf in the Corolla. There's a Mini in there as well. There's somebody else off over in the back part of the circuit.
That's
Russell.
Who's running in second spot.
In that dice with Paul Jones. So Jones is one out there.
Russell's lost a lot of time and has a lot of ground to make up, and of course they will be slowed as they come back to this area. The flags will be out while the cars have been pushed clear. We can see a number of cars involved there. 88 driving clear there.
That's Clyde Lee.
Yes, in the Mini. He was involved. It was a rear end of the field collision that put so many of the cars out. The marshals are working valiantly to clear cars away. A lot of damage done there to car 11, as you can see. Henry Wolf's car.
Car 61 was involved as well. John Clark in a Tirana. Ward has negotiated that section of the track safely. As Evan said, the cars have all been pushed off.
That was quick work by the marshals to get them out of the way. That looked like a nasty situation. We couldn't see for a while, but there was so much dust as cars were spinning. But you can see Wolf there has been badly damaged. A lot of fiberglass, which probably makes it look worse than it was. Bob Stevens got through. The early cars were clear.
Oh, there's one, looks like could be Jones. We'll wait and see down into Dunlop Loop. Blowing an awful amount of smoke. No, I don't think it was. It may have been that Tirana that went through just before those two cars. But one blowing an awful amount of smoke going up the top of the hill. So here we have it. I think it's on the tyre, scraping against the guard. Could be a legacy of that shunt at the back of the field. And I don't know whether he's aware of that it's rubbing on the Keith Nightingale. If it starts to wear through that tyre, he's going to be in all sorts of trouble.
He won't be able to finish if it's rubbing as severely as that. It's only on certain corners, but he will wear that tyre out if he does it. Well, let's watch again to see the action. We'll replay this to try and pick up what happened.
Well, Jeff Russell, of course, was running in second place. We pick up as Russell has a big lose coming through Dunlop Loop, spins in front of Bob Stevens, who manages to miss him, across into the rough.
He was a bit lucky, Mike. He went wide, and those in the past who've gone out there have tended to hit the bank. He got it back again and went across the track. No one coming. Otherwise, they could have T-boned him in the classic sense. So Russell can rather be thankful, I think, that he got out of it as he did.
Well, there's Phil Ward, who's very sideways. Perhaps a few viewers at home want to work out why so much dust is around the track. There was a massive oil spill in the previous race, or the previous couple of races. And just prior to the start of this, the marshals were out there with cement dust all over the circuit. So it's not really so much the dirt that the drivers are running into. It's a lot of cement dust still out there. There's our race leader. There's Nightingale still continuing with that tyre rubbing on the rear fender. He's slowed down appreciably coming into this corner, but you'll see next time we pick him up in an opposite turn exactly how that's rubbing against the wheel.
That car Awards absolutely lunges, doesn't it, when he puts the foot down coming out of the corners?
It's always been an incredibly fast car. It's a successful car too. There's one that is not going to make it. It is finished up in the bank, up in the top part of the Winfield corner. Has gone off the circuit down there.
That was Nightingale, I think, who's pulled off the circuit, yes.
Meanwhile, although I think that's Nightingale there.
It's going into
back in, so Nightingale returns to the pits as Phil Ward continues out of Winfield, a short straightaway to Camalco turn. And Phil Ward in the Phil Ward turbocharging entry. It's not turbocharged the car, of course, but Phil Ward, of course, actively involved in the turbocharging of motors as a part of his business. Continues on without too much opposition at this stage. I think, in fact, the one blowing a lot of smoke is not too far behind Ward, and that is Paul Jones in the Monza.
The car that went off at Winfield is back on the track. It was Laurie Hazelton in a Capri. No damage, just spun off and is back in action again. Oh, gee, there's been some action in this race.
There certainly has been. Here's another almost coming together here of some of the slower cars.
I think Ward's coming up on this group, isn't he? So
they're coming into Winfield corner. They'll manage to get through there and leave the path open for Ward, who'll be coming up to them probably in about another 10 seconds. There's Ward coming down to Winfield corner. He's probably got 100 metres on Jones in second place in the Monza, and third place being held down by Bob Stevens.
Well, Bob's behaved himself and has missed all the little incidents that have been going on the track, and finds himself quite well placed, although not in terms of being able to mount any sort of challenge on Phil Ward.
His qualifying time yesterday equal with the track record held by Tony Edmondson, and that's no mean feat to be out of the saddle for 12 months. To be able to give the car a bit of a repaint and a polish, and then come back without too much attention to it, and be even quicker than the last time you're at the circuit.
As I said, it's for sale, so if you in motor racing and you want a sports sedan that really does go, there's the proof. You better get in touch with Phil Ward, because
if you could register it, imagine the fun you could have on driving to work every morning. However, there's Phil Ward, well and truly out in front, increasing his lead of anything from Paul Jones and the Monza. Third still held by Bob Stevens, making some ground up on Jones. And then a long way back to the driver of the fourth place car. Through Camalco turn again, and Phil Ward, well and truly out in front, doing it easily.
Jeff Russell, who's run off of the Dunlop Loop, is back in the race going very hard, but he's a long way back, almost half a lap back behind the leader, so it's a lost cause as far as he's... No, it's not half a lap by this time you're through, 11.6 seconds, so he's made up an immense amount of time. And it'll be interesting to watch, but only with 3 laps to go, I don't think he can do anything about it. But whether he could pick up 11.6 seconds, I doubt, but he might pick up a couple of them, and he will certainly try.
Of course, he was dicing with that man, Paul Jones, with that pressure told, and with that spin that cost him so much ground. Jones holding down second place now behind Phil Ward. Bob Stevens third. In fact, they were the first 3 off the front row of the grid. John Burke in the high-powered Celica car 77, out of business. We saw him pull off the track earlier. And of course, there was that huge tangle up there in Wonderlic a few laps back that took care of John Clark, Henry Wolf, and Clyde Lee. Those 3 cars now parked on the infield in various states of disarray.
Well, Russell is trying desperately hard. I've been timing him in half a lap. He picked up 1 second over the leader. Now, that's still not enough to get him back up, but he's now only 10 seconds behind where he was in half a lap.
And Ward's in traffic, so that's going to slow him down a little.
2 seconds to go, and Russell back in 4th place in car number 2. So he doesn't know that he's lost the race. If he has, no one's told him. He's trying very hard to catch the leading threesome again. Phil Ward from Paul Jones and Bob Stevens, and Dennis Russell. An amazing comeback for someone who put the car right up the track in the fashion that he did.
Jones in second place, we mentioned. Bob Stevens slowing rather dramatically, and I think Russell will catch him without too much of a problem.
Stevens is going to pull off, I think.
There's Ward completing yet another circuit.
Last lap board is up for him.
Coming up, passes Bob Stevens' Mustang on the inside and goes through to lead this one quite comfortably. The Camalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan Series, round number 3.
Russell has just passed the start-finish line and is now coming up towards Dunlop, and he really is going very, very hard. But with 1 lap to go, there's nowhere in the world he can catch this man, or even those who are coming second and third. He's passed third, sorry. He's passed Bob Stevens, who has trouble. Maybe with the transmission, he seemed to be having trouble getting gears. A bit hard to tell from here, but that seemed to be the impression one got from looking at Bob Stevens as he was shuffling away with something in the cabin of the car. But a great comeback for Phil Ward.
Yes, he was telling me when I spoke to him earlier that the last couple of months he's been sitting at home watching the telecast of the Amaru meetings, and he suddenly decided he couldn't take it anymore. He just had to get the car out of mothballs and come back out for another lash.
Well, he's done it. He's come up with a first-up win in the Camalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan round here this afternoon at Amaru Park. Second place will go to Paul Jones in the Monza. And probably Jeff Russell heading up to take third place. Bob Stevens withdrawing in the last half lap of the race. So I think a rather elated Phil Ward, 12 months on the sidelines, an avid television viewer, and he comes up a winner with the checkered flag, first time out at Amaru Park. There's the big Monaro heading down the back straight, getting a big hand from the crowd here at Amaru Park today. Very popular driver.
That car's been around a long time too, hasn't it?
Yes.
And performed
great history.
Tremendously well.
Yeah. More than 100 wins. That puts it into the same sort of category as the old Mustangs of Pete Gagan and Alan Moffat, which had great records of consistency over the years as well. We'll just watch the spin again and see how lucky that Russell was. He was challenging for the lead, as we saw. Watch.
This is the one down in Wonderlic that took care of John Clark, his Tirana. Henry Wolf in the Corolla, and Clyde Lee in the Mini. The 3 of them all came to grief there. The front end demolished completely on the Corolla. Clyde Lee was lucky, actually. He had probably avoided most of the damage. There's the Corolla going off now, the front end destroyed.
There's the cars everywhere.
There's the Tirana.
So it was a touch of those going for the inside of the track. The precipitator sent one car wide and into the fence, and no problem guessing who that was by the look of the changed profile of Wolf's car. But just a touch on the inside and cars spun everywhere, and there were about 4 involved altogether. those in the second half of the field who went out, so a couple of spins in that event. But Phil Ward clear of it all and took a clear win. Well, plenty of action in that event. We'll be talking to Phil Ward when we return to Amaroo Park.
Jeff Russell, well positioned in the early stages of the Comalco Wonderlic round here this afternoon at Amaroo Park, but unfortunately he wasn't to finish. He was one of the pre-race favourites, but unfortunately through that spin it dropped him back in the pack and brought him back to third place. Well, a fellow I suppose that's welcome back to Amaroo Park into the winner's circle is Phil Ward, who told us earlier today they'd been sick and tired of sitting at home and watching the Channel 7 telecast of everyone else winning races, so he decided he'd bring his faithful Monaro out of mothballs, get up and win one and get his face on television. You've done it.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It was good. Mike, sorry, mate. Right, it was good fun, and I'm happy to be back. It does drive me crazy watching at home on the television, but I'm back here and I've had a win luckily, so I'm pretty happy.
Well, we were told earlier that that Monaro is up for sale.
Yes, it is. It's as you can see, it's a pretty good old beast. She's probably had more wins than any race car racing here today, I think. It's got over 100 wins to its credit, and it still goes well. In fact, that second heat I was going to try and knock off the lap record. In the first heat I equalled it, but there was a bit of oil around the circuit and I couldn't sort of get down to the times, but she's still sort of pretty competitive, and I'm pretty proud of the old girl.
Well, it's only been used occasionally on Sundays, hasn't it?
Oh, it's a very very low mileage car, really. It never gets driven on anything else but weekends, and it's very carefully maintained.
Well, it's a great first for all you business executives that want to create an impression driving over the Sydney Harbour Bridge on a Monday. Mr. Mansour from Comalco Wonderlic to make this presentation of the Shield for you, Phil.
The Comalco Wonderlic series this year, Phil, has been a most exciting series, and the thrashing pace you set today certainly has made it as exciting as the previous two races. On behalf of Comalco Wonderlic, I'd like to present you with this trophy for a great win.
Yeah, thanks very much to Comalco Wonderlic. It's pretty hard for the guys to have a run out here, and without Comalco looking after people and putting up a bit of prize money and some trophies, well, a lot of people wouldn't be able to race. Thanks very much.
Okay, good to see you again up on the winners roster, and we hope it won't be too long before you greet you back here again.
Yeah, thanks very much. I look forward to that.
Okay, Phil Ward. For Channel 7 viewers, we're ready to take a break around Australia, then return with more exciting motor racing action from the Excitement Centre. That's Amaroo Park Raceway. Welcome back to Amaroo Park Raceway. We have the field starting to line up now for the Stallion Stable Goodyear Group E Production Series. Round number 3 this afternoon, a good lineup of cars, and also a special call to those people watching our telecast around Australia from hospital beds. I know we have a lot of viewers that take in the motor racing. We get a lot of cards and letters from people who enjoy motor racing and can't get out to see it. And a particular call to one person, Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, who's watched, I think, 3 of our last telecast from the hospital bed. That's Roy Oliveri, who's on the mend finally, so good luck to him. One of motor racing's entrepreneurs, as we pick up on the field coming out onto the track at the moment.
Cam Warner is the man on pole for this round of the Stallion Stable Goodyear Series production event, but in an earlier heat today, prior to the start of our telecast, he had to relinquish the checkered flag to Stephen Brook, who set a new lap record in his Perrier RX-7. And it's going to be a great dice between these two off the front row of the grid. And they're not going to have the race all to themselves either, with quite a number of cars, Evan Green, in this class. Now that I think a lot of the drivers have really started to do a little more testing, a little more experimenting as far as the regulations allow. I think it's just getting a little quicker each meeting. Half a second here, 1/10 of a second there.
I think it's developing into one of the most interesting categories in Australian motor racing. Series production is for almost standard motor cars. And for those of you who really like motor racing because of the relevance to production vehicles, this is your race. The 2 cars on the front row of the grid, Cam Warner's car is a Datsun 280ZX. Stephen Brooks is a Mazda RX-7. Stephen, in this morning's race, won it and also broke the lap record for cars of this category, and now puts himself into a unique position among the record holders here at Amaroo Park, and he holds class records for both categories of series production. He used to run the Perrier Alpha Sud before and had the class record for that. He went through last year, in fact, winning his class in every event to Australia, so he really had a record of consistency. Has moved up into the bigger car this time and broke the lap record this morning. So Stephen Brook holds the class in both categories, both engine sizes.
Nice little Perrier girls there, very bubbly.
And Cam Warner getting a, what you might call a Falkland Island type view, a naval engagement on the left. And looks across towards Stephen Brook, who can't take his eyes off the Stallion stable girl there.
It'd be very off-putting, actually, sitting there preparing for a race and thinking about all those lovely girls. Just, you know, I mean, it normally doesn't happen if you pull up and park your car and have all those lovely standing around. But anyway,
let's run through the grid, shall we? Car number 11, Peter McKay, in the Datsun 280 ZX running for Penthouse. Gary Leggett is out of the race in his Alfetta. Alan Fender in RX7 and Gary Walden in a TR7. Alan Fender in number 16, Gary in 56 alongside him. Behind them, Gerard Murphy in an Alfetta, John Giddings in a Datsun Skyline, John Phillips and Alan Springett side by side in Ford Cortinas, Graham O'Connor in a Lancia, Mark Pickett in a Cortina, Phil McDonald in a Fiat, Paul Aldous in a TR7, Lou Renato is back in the field as they go away side by side. The power of Cam Warner's bigger Datsun gives him just to the edge as he and Stephen Brook go up. Bay for the first time. The race is over 8 laps.
Cam Warner going through on the outside to take the lead at the top of Marlborough as they dip into Dunlop Loop, and then coming up very smartly on the tail of Brook there. Looked like Fitzgerald. Selden fairly close as well, swinging through the corner onto the run to Mazda Corner now, and there you can see Stephen Brook putting plenty of pressure now on Cam Warner. Not too much, 1/10 of a second qualifying between them yesterday, but Brook certainly all over Warner in the 280 ZX coming down to the left-hander at Honda Corner.
Stephen Brook was Formula Ford champion. The idea of that category last year, the idea of that category in the TAA competition was to let people move on into other areas of single-seater racing, but he couldn't afford to do that, and he went off into the Alpha Sud firstly through last season in the series production. This year he's running again for Perrier in his RX7.
I'd say it's getting tight down there. Peter McKay in the Penthouse car, almost on the wall. And we should also be pointing out that the tyres that the drivers are running on during this series, of course, are NCTs from Goodyear, of course, who are the sponsors of our national race telecast on the 7 network.
Cam Warner over the top in front from the Perrier RX7, given by Stephen Brook, then Peter Fitzgerald. 5th place. Now that's car 7, Gerard Murphy in the Alfetta. He's come up from 9th position on the grid, and he's done it in the space of a lap and done it very well indeed.
I remember some weeks or some few meetings back we had Gary Leggett in an Alfetta who came through the field very, very quickly indeed, unusually so, but got through with a couple of spins. He was really dynamite to watch in the traffic.
Had suspension problems, I believe. Talked to the Alpha people today, and that's the reason why he hasn't run today. They've got a problem with the rear end of the car that they can't settle down.
It was good television with the suspension problems, but he certainly gave it everything.
Kept everybody in suspense.
Fitzgerald still up into 3rd place. Selden, of course, in the Volvo in 4th at the moment, along to Camalco Wonderlic Corner. And now, once again, they complete one more. And the order is still the same, in fact, with Cam Warner starting to pull away, if anything, from Stephen Brook.
I think he must have worked on the car, you know, since the first race, because he didn't have the same speed as Brook, but he is certainly getting away. He's got a bigger car, although it's a bit hard to measure the engine size of a conventional piston engine against the rotary, but it is a larger car, the Datsun 280 ZX, much heavier car. Cam Warner being one of the really serious competitors in series production since the category began racing.
Has increased or not.
And Stephen Brook is just can't hold him at the moment. Warner really flying.
I think it's about 12 months ago since the series production was actually launched here at Amaroo Park, and the first occasion was in the rain last year. And to look now after, I think perhaps probably 4 or 5 meetings, we've had the lap times dropping dramatically, not only in this circuit but in many others around Australia. And the Group E production series car certainly providing some entertaining motor racing, as a support, of course, to all the other popular forms of sports sedans and the outright touring cars.
Well, Cam Warner held the lap record for this class. Watch your knuckles there, fella. Cam Warner held the lap record for this class before Stephen Brook knocked it off in the earlier heat today. The way he's going out in front there, he might just intend on getting it back.
Brook seems to be a little faster through the corners. He hasn't quite got the same power, fairly obviously, but he is closing up around the bends. He broke Warner's record by 9/10 of a second, and maybe Warner's gone back out again to try and do something about it. But the Mazda with Brook certainly has closed a little bit in this last lap. He was losing ground, but now he's closing. See how he gets up under braking, does come in deeper. The lighter car would help, of course. And Brook is a very capable driver.
That 9/10 does underline, in fact, the dramatic improvement, doesn't it, in the performance of these cars, to be able to break a lap record by that margin.
Deep into Winfield he comes. No doubt Brook is making up ground now. He went a little bit sideways there as a means of getting a better line out of the corner, but the car sort of slid a bit further than he thought. Behind him, Peter Fitzgerald is trying desperate things in his yellow RX-7 to try and bridge the gap, but not succeeding too well. And just behind him, David Selden in the Volvo with Gerard Murphy, the man who sells Alphas and races them as well, right behind him in the Alfetta.
Well, we have an interesting race going with Cam Warner being able to pull away, probably on Vitcher Payfield down through this part of the track, through Dunlop Loop and down to Mazda Corner. They're fairly even, as you can see. Brook still there in second place. But Brook from Honda Corner starts to make up a lot of ground on Cam Warner. But as the race has indicated in the last 3 or 4 laps, Warner has always had enough up his sleeve to be able to pull away. Whether or not he'll be able to do that in the closing stages, we'll have to wait and see. But at this stage, he holds a small but still a handsome break over Stephen Brook. And a long way back then, probably 100 metres back then to Fitzgerald in third, Selden in 4th place.
Brook certainly closes under braking and on the corners.
They go very close to the wall there, that concrete wall, very unforgiving. There you can see the entrance to the pit area, and of course the car swing right through Wonderlic Corner. Warner leads again, 1 more lap completed. Brook in second, Fitzgerald and Selden. That's the top running 4 with McKay not that far off the pace. Back behind him, in fact, Peter McKay has come on quite well in the 280 ZX.
He had 3 very dramatic losers in that car during the week out here in practice, and he had to do a lot of work on the suspension.
We might just watch them, but the battle with David Selden and Peter McKay back there looks like an interesting one. Gerard Murphy, the 3 of them are caught up pretty close together. But it's a Datsun versus Mazda battle out front. Again now, the part of the circuit where Stephen Brook makes up a little bit of ground. He'll have to try and make up a lot this time to get really close. He comes in there, you can see he's picked up maybe a metre under braking, hard in the corner, a good line through there. But then the extra power of the big fuel injected 6 of the Datsun 280 takes it just a little bit clear of him as they come down towards Winfield. And then again, Brook is close. That's as close as he's been in the race. Now let's see if he can hold it there, because he loses out again under acceleration. But if he can stay within reasonable contact, he might just get him over the top of the hill. That's where he's got to be very, very close. Let's see how they go. This will be critical as they go past the start-finish line through CRC straight.
And a little bit further back, Peter McKay has taken Gerard Murphy in their little battle. He's now setting out in pursuit of David Selden for 4th spot.
What is making it extremely difficult for Brook, although he's making up a lot of ground. Warner's driving so well. Not throwing the car around, just doing what he has to do, and he's very precise in his driving, and of course through driving with such clean lines, he's able to keep that initiative over Brook.
David Selden there in the Volvo, Peter McKay going through in the RX-7 and the Alfetta with Gerard Murphy. Following them, that's the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th positions. As they stream through, followed in turn by car 56, which is Gary Walden in that famous TR7 that he won in the Chook Raffle.
The Village Grand Prix where the better drivers come from.
And the last lap board will be out for the drivers this time.
Close.
And so this is a good position for Brook to be in. He's close. He can just stay on the tail of the bigger Datsun up the hill. He's got a chance of getting him. He's got 1 more lap to go. The last lap sign will go up. There it is, just into the right of your screen. Out it goes. They know they've got 1 more circuit of 2 kilometres around here. Now, can Stephen Brook catch him? He won the earlier race.
Warner says, can I hang on?
And the Datsun pulls way up the hill, but under braking in the cornering. We may expect to see Brook close a bit. He won't try and pass here, but he'll try and get as close again. He's very close. He goes a little bit too tight in, maybe, because
it's going to put him outside, but I don't think Brook can capitalise on that because he manages to close the gate coming out of that corner.
Honda may be where he'll try his move, Mike. I would think he'll go through Mazda as hard as he can, which is this right-hander coming up now, and try and get in position. He's having a bit of tyre trouble. He's swinging that tail a bit, but it won't slow him down. But he'll try very hard this corner and the next one. Let's see what he can do.
Well, he's sideways coming out of there. Now, it depends greatly which line he sets for in the next corner, whether Brook can make a run down the inside. I don't think at this stage it'll be a last and a very late run if Brook can do it. Down under brakes into Winfield Corner for the final time. Cam Warner just balled it a little bit there. hard out against the concrete wall. I don't think there's too much Brook can do about it. He's going to have to hand this one to Warner. Warner probably deserves it. He's driven very well from lap 1 to lap 8. The checkered flag falls to Cam Warner. Stephen Brook will take second place, and third place will go to Peter Fitzgerald. And they, of course, will be followed by David Selden and Peter McKay. So an entertaining Stay in Stable Goodyear Group E Production Series race. All the cars, of course, running on radial tyres, NCTs from Goodyear. And it goes to show just on the type of tyre that you drive your road car on, not driving with slicks or anything. And a very reserved drive there from Cam Warner. Full credit to him.
The first 5 cars to take the checkered flag did so in exactly the same order that they came off the grid. Warner, Brook, Fitzgerald, Selden and McKay. And didn't quite produce, I don't think, the excitement that we might have expected in light of what had happened earlier today with the lap record having fallen to Stephen Brook. But Warner, as you said, I think did do it well, didn't he?
Well, I think for the next round, hopefully Gary Leggett will be back. If the Alpha people can have the Alfetta back for Gary Leggett. By far and large at the moment, the most spectacular drive of the series in the opening round here at Amaroo Park. Well, let's take nothing away from Cam Warner, the very deserving winner of the Stay in Stable Goodyear event. And more big action coming up shortly when we return to Amaroo Park Motor Racing live on the 7 Network.
The Stallion Stables Goodyear Group E race, that's for series production cars. The one you just saw, won by Cam Warner. You were working pretty hard, Cam.
Oh, pretty hard, Evan, yeah. Steve keeps you pretty busy.
You're not a man of many words.
Not at the moment.
Now, you won the second race today, the one we've shown on television, but of course the result of the overall race today is taken from the points you scored in both. Now, you didn't do too well in the first race.
No, Evan, I got a bad start in the first one, and Peter held me up, and I just sort of couldn't get round him.
So it means then that the winner of today's race, in terms of the point score, is Stephen Brook. Stephen, if I could call you over. You're having a pretty fair initiation to series production with a bigger class. You now have the lap record. I don't know what sort of times were posted in that race, but you set the lap record in the earlier race, so you have the unique distinction of holding lap records in both classes for series production races, in the Alpha Sud and now in the Perrier RX-7.
Yes, well, I had a fairly clear run in the first race this morning. I won the start and was able to get away and settle down and set my own pace and just drive as hard as I could. This time, Cam was a little bit quicker off the line, and it's just that close between us that whoever gets the start has got a pretty good advantage.
You were trying all sorts of things to get round there in those last few laps.
Oh, yes, I was trying everything I could to get close enough to tackle him, but he's got a little bit more punch out of the corners than what I've got, and it's a very difficult thing to overcome from behind.
You and your team have done remarkable things with the RX-7, because it's only, what, the second time you've been here?
A second race here, yes. We had the first race a month ago, and we were lucky enough to get pole position that time. Cam was a little bit better than us yesterday, and he beat us by 1/10 of a second to grab pole. We have run 2 races at Oran Park since then, and we were lucky enough to get a couple of wins there. So it's looking pretty good at the moment.
Well, that was the hard part. Here's the good part. Christine Davis from Stallion Stables to make a presentation to you. Christine?
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate you on behalf of Stallion Stables, the hairdressing saloon for men, and also Goodyear Tyres. They're sponsoring this race, the third race of the season. We have a few things for you. Firstly, our VIP prize.
Yes, I need a haircut.
Which invites you down to any of our salons to come and have a great haircut. A lovely bottle of champagne. Also from Goodyear Tyres, some NCT radials, and this beautiful trophy.
Thank you.
Would you like me to hold that for you? You've got your hands full. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Stephen Brook, you're well laden up there. Perrier in one hand, unopened champagne in the other.
Oh, it's a pretty good start to a good finish to a good day's racing.
You got a good team?
Oh, a very good team, yes. Derek Hyler and Bill Hammond have been with me for a couple of years now, and they know exactly what's required, and they know how to win.
Series production is developing into great racing, and Stephen Brook, along with Cam Warner and Peter Fitzgerald and the others, are the people to watch. The big race is about to follow. 25 laps. Moffat on the front. Can he keep the pack away?
Welcome back to Amaroo Park Raceway. We're preparing now for the final today of the Better Breaks CRC AMSCAR series. This is round number 3, a 25 lapper that will bring together all of those strong running Mazda RX-7s that you saw in the qualifying heat a little earlier this afternoon. Of course, I refer to Alan Moffat, Barry Jones and Terry Shield, the booming V8s of Alan Grice and Colin Bond, Gary Wilmington, Terry Finnegan, who was well placed earlier, Fred Gibson, of course, in the turbocharged Bluebird, Jimmy Richards in the John Player BMW, and a whole host of RX-7s, Commodores, John Harvey starting well back on the grid, and he's subbing this afternoon for Peter Brock and the Marlborough Holden dealer team 05 Commodore. Clive Benson Brown, of course, in the Commodore, John Goss in the Jaguar, Brian Callahan, Steve Masterton in the Capri. I think we've got about all of the stars here this afternoon, including Murray Carter for our Victorian viewers. So we have a boomer of a final coming up for you in this afternoon's telecast from Amaroo Park Raceway. And I think the crowds that have responded to the Better Break CRC series so far this season at Amaroo Park are indicative really of the type of racing that's being provided, the very close racing. If anyone thought that the answer to touring cars was putting them in the smaller category, that hasn't paid off in past years. When you get Dick Johnson and Peter Brock and all the top drivers together, Alan Moffat, of course, up this afternoon, I think you're going to produce some good touring car racing, a good curtain raiser to the distance races coming up, the CRC, and of course the James Hardie 1000.
Mike, it's been a success story since somebody wrote the Bible. The little bloke trying to knock the big bloke off.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to have both, haven't you?
Exactly, and I think we've seen that demonstrated very ably here this afternoon by the three Mazdas of Alan Moffat, Barry Jones and Terry Shield, who put on a boomer of a race earlier. There's Alan Moffat, the man that has come to Amaroo Park, missed the opening rounds here at Amaroo, back today for his first appearance, keeping in mind it's a mandatory 2-run to qualify for the CRC series race. And of course, the other driver that we look forward to seeing, perhaps even at our next meeting, is going to be Bobby Morris in the new 7 Ford.
Sure. In the lead up to this meeting, people were all looking to Alan Grice as the V8 driver most likely to trouble Moffat and the other Mazdas. I wonder whether Grice might be a little bit deflated at the fact that he couldn't get by Colin Bond in the V8 heat earlier.
Well, could easily be. And what of Barry Jones? Let's check that out. Evan Green is trackside for this report.
Barry Jones on the front row of the grid, Alan Moffat alongside. This could be the biggest race of your life.
Well, it's looking that way. It's getting a bit hectic these days. I thought races were supposed to get easier as you got older, not harder. This is going to be as difficult as the first one, I think.
You really had a battle there and you only came third. You must be trying to do better now, but Alan made such a tremendous start last time.
Well, we had a few too many revs on board, Evan, and we'll try and get a better start this time. My aim is to beat him over the hill, obviously, but we've got the V8s to contend with now too, which makes things a little bit extra difficult, but it'll be a good race, whichever way it goes, I feel.
Talking of V8s, I might just head back towards the line and talk to Alan Grice over there. I won't speak to Alan Moffat. We had a chat with him. I know he gets pretty wound up during the start of the race, so we'll leave Alan on his own because he's got his own thoughts and his own problems to counter. But here's Alan Grice, who was very fast in practice yesterday. Alan, in practice yesterday, you might have got front row of the grid, but I believe for a muff gear change, so you must feel you've got a fair chance of winning this race, but the start will be critical.
Yes, it will. I can hope to get one off the start and settle down and hope I'm not surrounded by too many of these little Mazda blowflies and get the other one at the end. That's the plan. But I've also got to be pretty careful of Bondi. I got away in front of him last time, and the torque of his 350 was enough to pull him right up the mountain in front of me. So I've got to keep my eye on him, got to try and get a run on them, and got to do better than the guy alongside me, so I'm going to be busy.
Alan Grice, he certainly will be busy. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Evan. There's words coming from Alan Grice, the man who could be the cat amongst the pigeons if they get off a little slow, as of course Colin Bond. There's Freddie Gibson, of course, in the Nissan Turbo Datsun. Terry Finnegan, who of course Gary Wilkinson spoke to earlier, comeback boy. And Kavich, of course, in the Mazda RX-7 over there, number 30. The first drive this season at Amaroo Park for Jim Richards in the John Player BMW. And sitting back on the grid, longest distance I think he started back in a race for a long time, John Harvey, number 05 for the Marlborough Holden dealer team, subbing this afternoon for Peter Brock. Number 16 on the grid, of course, as we pan through, heading back towards the tail end of the grid, which would be Alan Brown.
who of course is the patron of the Recar team. I think we're just about set for the start, waiting for the flag to go up. Stand by, settle back in your chairs at home. We promise you action aplenty. For the Better Break CRC Touring Car Series, the AMSCAR Series, round number 3, ready to explode at Amaroo Park Raceway. Flag is up.
Moffat goes this time.
Down, and Moffat gets away smartly. Jones goes with him. They're even, Stephen. In fact, I think Jones has won the kick on the outside of Moffat as they head up the hill for the first time. Moffat comes screaming back on the inside of him. The two of them going up to the top of the hill. Look at that trail of cement dust behind them as Moffat goes in very quickly indeed. Goodness grief, they should have had another perhaps lap or so, because at that particular, no one behind them from third car back could have seen a thing.
The BMW a long way back, Mike. He got just blotted out in the dust. Colin Bond made a sensational start. He thought he was back in the rally. When he got in the dust, he just went hard, went wide. He weaved his way through the traffic. He's up in third place, and he is the big threat, not only to the two cars in front, but a very great threat to Alan Grice. What Alan Grice didn't want to happen has happened. He's got Bondy to get by, and that's going to be very, very hard.
Shields back behind Alan Grice as they absolutely tear down this time the Winfield corner for the first time. 25 laps the distance, 3/4 of the way through the opening circuit.
Wilmington and the Yellow Falcon going through in 6th place.
And Harvey also making up. Look at this line astern as they come through Camalco Wonderlic corner for the first time. There you can see the different lines of the car, how close indeed they go to the fence there, including Masterton and Carter towards the tail of the field. 1 lap completed, 24 remain in round 3.
They are trying desperately hard. I haven't seen so much tail hanging for a long time. What's the way they throw those cars into the corner? A good one to watch will be Winfield at the bottom of the mountain. They really are throwing them sideways.
Place from Barry Jones at the present time, going around the back of the circuit on the second lap of this 25-lap race, and he's pulled away quite a bit. Jim Richards just pulled off, by the way, in the JPS BMW after only one circuit. Trouble.
He may have had a bump or something, and all the shambles of Duster and Knight just has sucked a lot of cement in, because he was in the thickest part of the dust. Couldn't see where he was going, dropped back a long way, and may have something like dust in the throttle slides in the fuel injection system or something.
Moffat, Jones, Bond, then Grice. Grice is under attack from Terry Shield.
That's the great scrap at the moment for third place between Terry Shield and Alan Grice. Moffat at this stage hasn't been cornered by Barry Jones. Bond still sitting in a very safe third place. Grice is in fourth place, and then, of course, Terry Shield putting a lot of pressure. And John Harvey starting to make a lot of ground through the field in the number 05 Commodore. Moffat going in low, and here we can see Shield working away at the inside of Alan Grice. We'll look at that back behind the Camaro of Colin Bond next lap around for you. Here come the leaders. Alan Moffat couldn't have hoped for a better start, and he got away outside of all that cement dust in his face, and that, of course, didn't throw Terry Shield, who was probably the strongest runner of the Mazda Challenge, but he's been able to get away and pass Alan Grice.
Oh, why, gee, they're tied up going into Winfield.
Let's keep it on this down into Winfield corner. Grice and Terry Shield are getting together very much, and I think Grice has lost the battle of that one.
Oh, there's been a bump there, and one of the Mazda RX-7 shedding bits of metal. You can see a little bit lying in the middle of the track there, probably his back bumper bar.
I think it's probably Terry Shield.
Yeah, Shield lost out very badly in that encounter down in Winfield, yeah, with Alan Grice. They went into the corner locked together.
Well, Barry Jones now has moved up on the tail of Alan Moffat, so we've still got this real race going up at the front. Moffat, the leader from Barry Jones. Colin Bond is third. Grice is now fourth, and Gary Wilmington moving up in advance of John Harvey, and just behind him, Cabbage in the next RX-7.
John Harvey made up a lot of ground from 14th place. And John Goss in the Jaguar back in the middle of the field, I assume. I haven't seen him in all the dust, but he is running there. We'll get to him a little later in the race.
It's really close. He's up there going through Winfield, but gets just a little sideways going through the corner. Bond has dropped back a little, or these two have pulled away from him a little.
Yes, I don't think Bondy can hope to run, but you can see this, the big grunt of that V8 on the front straightaway. Whenever he loses in the tight corners, he more than makes up for in straightaway performance. Alan Moffat leads over Marlborough down into the Dunlop Loop. Barry Jones in the Darrell Lee Chocolate Mazda RX-7 in second place. 9 Network Camaro with Colin Bond up front, tooling that well, and Alan Grice is in fourth place, of course, in the Recar Commodore.
Terry Shield has pulled off into the pits.
It's bad luck for Shield, because he and Grice were having a to-do on the back straight, and I think they had 2 bumps each, and Shield lost out. Moffat doing it nicely at the front of the pack. That's the place to be. Jones has had a little nibble, but dropped back off the pace. Bond probably holding 150 to 100 metres back behind him, then a long way back to Alan Grice.
Terry Shield back on the track and going up Pinchipate Hill. A lot of broken glass on the hill.
He was trailing some debris. I think he just pulled off to have it ripped away from the rear of the car.
That would suggest that, in fact, the confrontation between he and Grice, he must have got a bump from behind. Okay, Moffat hitting a bit of the cement dust there on the inside of the circuit. Jones moves back on his tail again as they drop down through Dunlop Loop. Bond sitting back about 50, 60 metres behind them, letting them have the race between the two of them.
Well, he knows there's still 20 laps to go.
If anything's going to happen, Bond is going to be there to pick up the pieces.
Some of these drivers have been going so hard in those early laps that their tyre wear must be a bit suspect, although the Mazdas are pretty light on it. And the man going hardest was Barry Jones, who really was putting the car sideways well. He's calmed down a bit now. The tyres have warmed up a little bit as well, which probably helped them with cornering. But it'll be interesting to see how they go in the last 5 laps. The first 5 laps have been frantic. The last 5 are where it'll count. He really closes up under brake Moffat there. Moffat lets him come in, knows he can't get by, and then just blasts away again. Similar cars built to different standards of tune. Moffat's engine built in Japan by the factory. Jones is a privateer, gets some assistance though from friends in America who know a lot about making rotary Mazdas go quickly. They had an engine problem after practice yesterday and spent last night rebuilding the motor, which wasn't good news for them. Had to run in the engine this morning just to bed in the rotor tips. Took it out for a few laps just to get it all settled down nicely. But there must be just a slight question mark about Jones's engine, seeing they've had to do such extensive work overnight. But he's right up there, right on the tail of Moffat. At the moment, the only man really in a position to put a real challenge out to Moffat as the race develops. It's a fair way back now to Colin Bond, whose car is probably just a bit too big, really, for him to put a challenge unless these two cars in front slow or are disabled in some way.
And then quite a big gap behind Bondi comes Alan Grice in the Recar Commodore, holding down 4th spot. Gary Wilmington in the Falcon is in 5th. Then John Harvey, the dealer team Commodore, in 6th and 7th place at the present time, held down by Terry Finnegan.
There's Colin Bond. You can see him maybe 120 metres or so behind. He's just coming into view now. And Alan Grice with a long chase. Gary Wilmington further back behind him, and the rest of the field as called by Gary.
Cabbage. And that RX-7 bringing up the rear of this trio. There's Harv. He's got quite a job in front of him today, I'd say.
Yes, a lot of traffic to get by. There's just no substitute at Amaroo Park for a good start. And when you're back in 14th place on the grid, that's not a good start.
Wilmington still doing a good job in the middle of the field, sitting back in about 4th spot, still in advance of Harvey.
I think it was Murray Carter's engine that expired on the warm-up lap. I haven't seen him in the race, but a car, I think it was Murray, just disappearing over the hill, dropped an enormous amount of oil, which caused officials to drop all that cement dust to try and slow things down.
There's Wilmington that we were speaking about, the lone forward privateer.
The car of his has proved pretty reliable this season, and I think if he could just get a touch more speed out of it, he could be right up there on the heels of the front-running touring cars in a couple of meetings.
Not Murray Carter, by the way. I found him in the field now. He's dicing with John Gott. Back in, oh, there's a car gone into the...
Brian Callahan, by the look of it, has had a lose down at the bottom of Winfield Corner. Tried to get off and spin it around and get back pointing in the right direction. And he manages to do just that. He's been having a good run also out of his Ford and one of the privateers. Here's Moffat coming out of Dunlop, out of Honda Quarter, heading down to Winfield Turn. Just back behind him is Barry Jones, probably dropped a couple of centimetres in the last lap. Moffat goes through very, very nicely on line. Look how closely Moffat runs to the wall, right to the last moment, and then gives it a blip and brings it back onto the straight again.
I know how close he goes to the wall. I did a couple of laps around here with him during the week, on Wednesday, in fact, and I was sitting on that side of the car. Thank you very much.
Alan Moffat over the top through Marlborough, down into Dunlop Loop. Jones, to his credit, is still there. Yes, still fairly close to him.
Either a different driving style or just different handling characteristics of these two otherwise similar cars. You watch the way they go around the corner, particularly if we see them through Winfield again, where Moffat goes wide and in a fairly graceful sort of loop. Something falling from Moffat's car.
Bit of bumper or something. I don't think it's anything that's really going to worry Alan Moffat at this stage.
It may just be ornamental. Let's certainly hope so. But as they go down there, let's just watch the difference in cornering. Moffat goes around fairly smoothly. Jones throws the car to try and get a tighter line. You'll see how they go. Jones get quite
tails just a little, doesn't it? They've dropped Colin Bond off. Even a little more now. In fact, Alan Grice is starting to reel Colin in just a little.
Yes, Colin dropped back. He's now 5.5 seconds behind the leaders, with Grice only another 3 seconds behind him. And Jones is closed up. He's certainly got up closer there. Maybe he's got just a little bit more power, because he's certainly made up ground up Bitchy-Pave, or alternatively, he may not have slowed quite as drastically for Dunlop Loop, which really is a difficult part of the circuit, a long, double sweeping right-hander. Now they're coming down towards Honda, this left-hander. Moffat has made a little more ground on the way down the hill, and Jones has dropped back a bit. He'd be now as much as 6 lengths behind Moffat.
Well, that's happened quite suddenly. He'll close up a bit here. Not as much as he has been, though.
As they're reaching almost the heading towards the middle stages of the race, Moffat's expertise in the preparation of his Mazda perhaps starting to show through a bit as he finds that little edge. He's driving very, very tidily indeed. There's Colin Bond going through, followed by Alan Grice. You notice the four-wheel drift through Wonderlick Corner.
Gary Wilmington should be the... Oh, well, I was going to say, had we stayed on that shot, would have been the next car we'd have seen, the Falcon. But never mind, back with Colin Bond now in third position, of course, up ahead of him, Moffat and Jones. There's Grice going through. And it's quite a fair gap back to the next competitor, as I said, being Gary Wilmington.
Terry Shield is out on the circuit again, but he lost almost a lap when he went in to have the broken bodywork pulled off. His times are the same as the leader, so he's going quickly. But he's out of contention, having lost almost a lap with that pit stop.
That is really a pity, because if Shield had started perhaps on the front row, he wasn't far off it. I think it had got to the top of the hill with Alan Moffat, but seen Moffat pushed perhaps a little closer than Barry Jones has been able to do since the race started.
Moffat is pulling away now from Jones. Whether Jones has problems, I don't know. He looked across rather anxiously at his pit crew that time, as though trying to explain something with his eyes. He may be saying the new engine wasn't running well enough, or I've got a slight problem. But in the back of his mind always must be the thought that they had to do so much extensive work on the motor overnight that there must be some doubt about it for such an important race. But still, a great effort. Coming second to Alan Moffat in a similar sort of car. Ain't bad.
There's Grice running in fourth place at the moment.
Halfway through this 25-lap third round. Better Break CRC AMSCAR Series here at Amaro Park. Jones again, tail out just a little as he goes through Honda and heads down towards Winfield Corner. Moffat about 35, 40 metres now. In fact, they've got a car between them.
Yes, he's opening up. And in fact, at half distance is Moffat, of course, from Barry Jones. Car 9 is next Colin Bond, as you know. Then car 4, which is Alan Grice. And then Gary Wilmington in the Falcon. They're the leading 5.
Yes, Harvey connection, the dealer team Commodore, Terry Finnegan also in a Commodore, then Cabbage in an RX-7. Then the second of the Recar Commodores driven by Alan Brown.
That's right, then car number 56.
6, Fred Gibson in the Bluebird.
Yes, the turbocharged Bluebird running 10th at the moment, just ahead of Murray Carter, who is going. It wasn't Murray that dropped the oil, I'm pleased to say.
And Gossie.
And John Gossie, car 10, running in 12th place. John Gossie will be pleased with that. He's just ahead of Steve Marston in the Capri, and those 3 cars have been having a great old battle all through the race.
Alan Moffat, car number 43, the Stuyvesant Mazda, goes down to Winfield Corner as we pick up on the top of Dunlop Loop.
We should see the Jaguar coming over here in a moment, Mike. John Goss should come over in this group. There he is, the second car there, just following Murray Carter. 2 great veterans of motor racing. John really got his hands full there, as you can see. Enough room to swing a cat, and that's just what he's doing. As he brings the Jag down through Dunlop, now after Murray Carter. Just a development exercise, according to John Goss.
Here comes Goss down on the... I thought he was going to move to the outside of Murray Carter. They're having a good scrap between them. Murray Carter, number 18, the Ford. Probably the most travelled Ford privateer in Australia.
He's amazing, isn't he, Murray Carter? Really, he's at every meeting. He always turns up. He's always there. He's always in the running somewhere. And, they're not far off being lapped by Alan Moffat. He's only about 250 metres to the rear of them.
John Goss, one of the drivers who reckoned the day of the V8 had ended, but he went the other way. He chose the V12. That car makes... he's just doing it deliberately. That's every lap now he's done that. That car makes the most glorious music. Instead of the deep thump of the V8, it's like cloth tearing when he goes by with the little cylinders all bobbing their pistons up and down. Terrific noise, and this is just a development exercise to get the car ready for the long endurance races. The Jaguar factory in Britain are interested in long-distance racing. A number of people are running. Bob Tullius, American, who's done very well with the XKS, the American stock car racing, and Tom Walkingshaw, a British tuning expert who's developing these cars for racing on the European scene. Big engine, 5.3 litres, the biggest monopoly, of course, the Falcon 5.8. the biggest European car we see in these sorts of events. Johnny Goss, the man who, with Kevin Barber, won at Bathurst in 1974, and the winner of the Australian Grand Prix, hounding Murray Carter. They're both back just out of the top 10, but you don't have to be leading to have a good race. And there goes John Goss, putting it sideways again, enjoying himself, I'm sure. Yes, John Goss, one of the great characters of motor racing. Let's tell us why he's doing it.
The Jaguar was an interesting car to work with, and driving around here at Amaroo this weekend, I feel sometimes that I lack a direct involvement with driving. But I've been overseas for 5 weeks with the Jaguar engineers. I spent some time with them, and I spent some time with Bob Tullius in North America, so that now we have Jaguars racing on 3 continents. I thought it'd be nice to bring a touch of Europe to Australian motor racing, and I think although this is very much a private effort at this time of the year at Amaroo, we expect a bigger impact on Australian motorsport as we approach Bathurst with additional sponsorship, etc.
Yes, good on Johnny Goss, bringing a class of Europe to, a touch of Europe to Amaroo Park today. And just back behind these two, we'll keep on this shot. Gossy doing a bit of the old NASCAR racing, but Terry Shield, who spent a lap out in the pit area, of course, trying to pull some bits and pieces from his Mazda after coming into contact with Alan Grice, rejoined the race and was starting to make up a lot of ground on both Murray Carter and, of course, John Goss.
Another great dice, by the way, developing between Alan Brown and Freddie Gibson, just coming up as we see Marston coming into the pits, just past the start-finish line. We've got quite a dice going on between 2 vastly different cars, the Turbo Datsun and Freddie Gibson, just having gone by this area where Marston is.
The twilight of its career, the Capri.
Yes. The last run, possibly, before he goes into his new, bigger car?
I would think so. Maybe one more, but I doubt it.
Yes. Certainly they would have ceased all the development that was used by Steve Marston, one of the star drivers here at Amaroo today.
Alan Moffat continues to lead the Better Break CRC AMSCAR Series round over 25 laps at Amaroo Park. After that rather jumbled start, Barry Jones got to the bumper of Alan Moffat's car and then unfortunately started to pull back. So Moffat has increased his lead of probably 100 metres or so over Barry Jones, and 100 metres then back to, of course, Colin Bond, who's still running in 3rd place in the 9 Camaro.
Alan Grice still 4th in the Recar Commodore. As we've said, Gary Wilmington holding down 5th, John Harvey 6th, Perry Finnegan is in 7th position, Tony Cabbage running 8th at the present time.
And they have 4 laps to go.
Down into Dunlop Loop, and there's Colin Bond. He's been having a good scrap there with a car he was attempting to put a lap on. I think it was Clyde Benson Brown. And Bond once again consolidates 3rd place in this race. Usually he's been a model of consistency in the Camaro here at Amaroo Park this season. Been in no trouble whatsoever. He's made the art of putting a big car around a small track look very, very easy indeed.
In all the scraps that we've had here at Amaroo so far this season, and despite the fact that this is Alan Moffat's first appearance at the circuit for 1982, the other Mazdas, Terry Shield, Barry Jones, have been going so well, but haven't actually managed to score a big race win, have they?
No.
It looks like Moffat might be the man to do it for the RX-7s today, the way things are going.
Well, he scored 2 outright victories in the Australian Touring Car Championship, which is about as good as you can get, including a win in the last race of the series, the Surfers Paradise like Sunday. Jones still there, dropping back just a little bit compared to the very close position he had before. There's in front of Alan Moffat is
about to lap Gossy.
That's right, the tail swinging John Goss, still driving with all the exuberance we've been watching now. Here we're about to see the extraordinary spectacle of a little Japanese sports car, a rotary engine, about to lap 2 big V-motored cars. Sorry, Al. There may be a discussion after the race about that. I think
bet you're live.
As John Goss moves across to resume his battle with
Gossy was just a bit too...
with Murray Carter. I don't know whether he saw him or what.
I don't think so. I think he was more interested in bringing a touch of Europe to the race this afternoon. But Moffat's had his hands full coming up, and I think he
brought a touch of Europe to Moffat's Mazda then.
2 laps to go, and I think Moffat might think twice about having another go to get past here.
And if he gets past him, he's got to deal with Murray Carter, and just look at Jones starting to wheel in
that's right.
Moffat now.
He might be running into the Friends of Dick Johnson Society.
Well,
now we try again. down into Mazda corner. He says, not Jaguar corner, let the Mazda get through. And he's through. And now he's got Murray Carter in front. One thing you can be sure of, neither of them are going to give way easily, but Murray Carter pulls over to one side and they'll resume their own private battle while Alan Moffat laps them successfully.
And Moffat would be very happy to have them between himself and Barry Jones.
I would say so. Jones hasn't been able to do too much more really in closing on Moffat. Moffat will open that gap up once again as he now leads the race without any interference from any of the slower cars. So Alan Moffat in the box seat.
Last lap board is about to be held out. There it is for Alan Moffat. Barry Jones goes through in second place. Murray Carter and John Goss splitting the pair.
We have John Harvey up into 5th place and Terry Shield, who lost the lap, up into 11th place, which is a good effort by the RX-7 driver.
So it's Moffat, Jones, Bond, Grice and Harvey on the track as they stand going through the last lap.
Well, what a great win this will be to Alan Moffat. So many people thought he'd done the wrong thing when he went for the small car. They thought he'd abandoned his right to take the winner's laurel, but Moffat knew what he was doing, got the full might of Toyo Kokyo, the Mazda people behind him, and has built a race-winning car. Caused a lot of controversy on the way, as people always do when they get a car that's winning races.
But a lot of the people that are squealing now are the people that said, oh, let him have peripheral ports, he can't win anyway.
Well, he's going to win, and there's the checkered flag to Alan Moffat, the winner here of today's Better Breaks touring car race.
And a good win, too, to Alan Moffat. First start for the season at Amaroo Park, and he comes up with a win. Barry Jones in the Mazda places second, and Colin Bond in the Kevin Bartlett Camaro gets up to finish in 3rd place. The unlucky driver, perhaps, of the entire event was Terry Shield, who gave Moffat such a hard run in the qualifying heat earlier today, but unfortunately was mixed up in a coming together with Alan Grice after about 3 or 4 laps. The rest of the field now finishing off, including John Harvey, who finally takes Gary Wilmington, and will get there to finish in about 5th place.
That's precisely where he finishes.
Wilmington in 6th.
That's right, Wilmington in 6th. In 7th place is Terry Finnegan, which is a good effort, and his second outing in the Commodore. Car 30 is next Tony Cabbage in the RX-7. Then car number 56, Fred Gibson in the turbocharged Bluebird, got himself up to 9th place. And rounding off the top 10, car number 37, Terry Shield, who got up into 10th place, a great effort after losing a lap in the pits, just pipping for 10th position, car 16, Alan Brown in the Commodore.
Well, Alan Moffat, winner of the 3rd round of the Better Breaks CRC AMSCAR Series at Amaroo Park. Welcome back to Amaroo Park, and what a great race we've had here in the 3rd round of the Better Breaks CRC AMSCAR Series, and Alan Moffat's first appearance at Amaroo for 1982, and a winner in most convincing fashion. Where is the man himself? Alan Moffat, congratulations. Who said these little cars didn't go? It wasn't you.
No, I always had a feeling they went quite well. It's very demanding around Amaroo, and the oil on the opening lap was rather interesting. That was a bit of a pity, but apart from that, once we got going, our little Stuyvesant car really hauled in the mail.
After the earlier heat, you might have been expecting perhaps just a little tougher opposition through the mid and final stages of this race.
Well, the other fellows gave us such a fright in the heat that we changed our tires for the second one, and it gave me just a little bit better rolling circumference, and I was able to get up the hill a little bit faster. But certainly the other Mazda drivers that was flat out from 1 lap to 25.
Well, not only Barry Jones and Terry Shield, who had a little misfortune today, but Bondi and Gricey, I think you've probably given them some incentive to put in a little bit of extra work for next time. But Norm Reinhardt is here on behalf of Better Breaks and CRC.
Good, thank you, Gary. Yeah, Alan, I think most people have waited to see you in entering a round of the Better Breaks series, and today was today. On behalf of our company, Better Breaks, congratulations on today's win, and thank you for making today's race such an exciting one.
Right, thank you very much to the Mazda distributors throughout Australia who support my team so well, and to my crew, Andrew, Ian, and all the fellows that get their backs into this car and make it go so well for me. Thank you very much.
Alan Moffat, the big winner today in the Stuyvesant Mazda. We'll be back at Amaroo Park shortly.
Welcome back to Amaroo Park Race. Well, I think everyone will agree at home we've had an exciting race this afternoon at Evan Green. A little disappointment in Terry Shield in the final, but still, I think Alan Moffat's put the cat amongst the pigeons for the next round here anyway.
He's certainly done that. There's a whole change in the face of Australian motor racing. A lot of controversy about it, but good from the point of view of spectacle. We're in for some great racing later in the year as the V8s get back into the swing. We can't wipe them off. I think Peter Brock wasn't home just to look after his new models. He was there building his new racing car.
What about Dick Johnson, Gary, in Queensland building a new car?
Well, his car is a building. I've actually seen pictures that BTQ have taken for us to show us what he's up to, and it looks impressive, and I think he's going to be a very big force. The V8s are still around, and as Terry Finnegan said earlier, the V8s are the cars, as far as he's concerned, for the long-distance races, and I think Alan Moffat's probably got some argument against that, and it's going to be great viewing.
All right, join us for the next round of the AMSCAR Series live from Amaroo Park Raceway. We'll look for your company.
Coming up in a moment, A Man from Atlantis and Star Trek at 5 o'clock. Remember a big lineup on 7 this evening with Manly versus South Sydney from Redford Oval at 6:30. An amazing new survival special smuggled out of the Falkland Islands on HMS Endurance. A Channel 7 exclusive at 7:30. And at 8:30, if you enjoyed Towering Inferno, don't miss Disaster on the Coastliner, our big movie premiere at 8:30 tonight.